So by now, you have been looking at your life and the 5 different components that you really want to focus on to rock this life that you've been given. Then, the lesson after this, we've been looking into this concept of ikigai, or however you pronounce that, to find your sweet spot, the stuff that you want to go all in. And let me tell you, you shouldn't just do that for like a month or two, right? Find something that you enjoy sticking with for 10 years, 20 years. I know that's a very long time frame, and you just start with a week and a month and a year. But there's a lot of power in understanding the long game, understanding what you want to stick with for a longer time. So once you have found that, and I hope you went through that worksheet and really found out for yourself what that is, you slept over it, you feel comfortable with it. So this lesson, I'll give you the framework for your business. I'll tell you about the 5 most important pieces that you have to take care of to build a freedom business. And then in the next module, we're gonna get to work and build it. Okay, so the framework. So there's 5 aspects. Let's start at the very top. It's about the why. It's the purpose. It's the reason for your business to exist. You will see there is a very strong correlation with looking at your own life and what you want in your own life. Now we break it down to your business. You do want to have a purpose for your business, a why. There's a lot of businesses out there that are very successful without having an actual purpose. And that's cool, I guess. Not if you want to build something that you're super proud of, right? Something that you identify with. You do want to have like a big mission and really change the lives of people in a certain way, okay? So ask yourself, based on your ikigai, what is it that your business should work on? One way that I like to define this is I look at how can I change a million people's lives? And in what regard? And it's really up to you. So let's just, as an example, go back to the world of courses and entrepreneurship, right? So my ikigai. So I could say, I want to change the lives of 1 million people within the next, say, 5 years by, and then I give a reason or a way of actually doing this, by educating them about a different business model or a different approach to life. And then you can make it more concrete, of course, right? But this is kind of like how you want to take it. But of course, you apply that to your ikigai, to your mission, okay? So your business becomes a vehicle to making your personal vision come true. Part 2, second spoke of that star model, right, is about providing value. And this is where I see a lot of businesses fuck it up, right? I mean, look around yourself. There is so many businesses where it's really questionable why they have been created in the first place. Lots of them will be out of business very soon. Others will make it, but it's weird they do. So what I'm pointing at is that if you build your freedom business, and again, looking at building something you're proud of, right? You want to create products that have a very, very high actual and perceived value for people. And we're going to dive into how you create your offer and define your specific products that you're selling in one of the next lessons. But just make sure that if you look at this from a model perspective, you want to provide a lot of value. Do not create a business where you could ever think, well, this is not valuable, this is probably not something that people would pay a lot of money for, or this is not something that will actually change the lives of people, okay? Focus on stuff that makes a difference. Again, specifics will come soon, we'll work on that. So the third spoke of the freedom business star is all about profits. And now you would probably think, well, of course, I'm in business to make a profit. I want to make money. Yes, you do. But there's a lot of very different business models. And if you look around yourself, a lot of the businesses that you will see operate on kind of slim profit margins. If you look at traditional businesses around you, like mom and pop stores who are selling different items, right? Or you look at restaurants, or even if you look at very, very successful big businesses like Amazon, most of these businesses have rather small profit margins. Now, obviously, if you look at the case of Amazon, they are absolutely gigantic. And because of the sheer volume that they're doing, it's very, very profitable overall. The thing is, I'd question if you really would want to create the next Amazon. Maybe you do, then quite frankly, this is probably not the right course for you. But also, the chances of you or me creating the next Amazon or Apple or Microsoft are just very tiny. I prefer to focus on business models that are easy and extremely realistic for me to make successful. And this is what I call a freedom business model. And for such a business model, you do want to operate in a space where your profit margins are a lot higher. Ideally, 50% and up, meaning that if you look at your business and the cost of delivering a certain product or service, you want to have 50% or more profit margins. This way, you don't actually have to sell so many products, not that much volume, to be left with enough money to have that really cool lifestyle and generate generational wealth. So this was part number 3 of our freedom business model and the STAR model, which is all about profit and the actual profit margins that you want to have in your business model. Number 4 is all about automation. So of course, nowadays there is so much talk about AI and machine learning and what technology can do for us. So I find it absolutely fascinating that most businesses do not actually automate. Or maybe they automate like little bits and pieces, but they don't have automation at the center of what they're doing. I think this is a big mistake. You can probably reduce your costs by 20, 30, 50, sometimes even more percent if you just tweak a couple things, if you're looking for a way to have big parts of your business automated. So with what you're learning in this course, it's absolutely possible to create a business model where 60, 70, 80% of your processes are actually done by machines. Part number 5 is scale. So obviously, you first have to go through the fundamentals. You first have to understand how the business works. You have to learn your unit economics and optimize a lot of things. But what you also want to do is right from the get-go, have a business model that once you have the foundation in place, you can scale. You can really scale up. And so obviously, if you look at these 5 components, there is a lot of business models that do not fit. And this is what this lesson is all about. I want you to look at different businesses that you encounter, right? There are so many businesses around you. Look at them and check these 5 elements. Understand how the different businesses score on these 5 elements. And you'll find out that probably 9 out of 10 or even more businesses just don't fit those criteria. Does that mean they're bad businesses? Oh no, not at all. You can go down that path. But if you follow this framework, the likelihood of you building a freedom business that lets you create something that means money, but also time and happiness and chill and all the stuff that you're looking for, the chances are a lot higher if you follow this framework. Okay, so once again, number 1 is purpose. Number 2 is value in the products that you're offering, products and services. Number 3 is high profit margins. Number 4 is automation, right? Conceptual automation from the start. And number 5 is the ability to scale that to very, very high levels if you choose to do so. This is the framework. Your to-do is now look around, check the different businesses that you encounter, and score them here on this very framework, because it will open your eyes to what's out there and what you do not want to do. And every once in a while, you will also see a business model that fulfills these criteria, and that could work for you too. Before then, in the next module, we will actually create your offer, your products, and then in the model after that, we'll build a machine around that so you can actually sell it profitably and make that freedom business model work for you. All right, so now we got all the foundational stuff out of your way. But just be sure, in case you have jumped here and skipped the other part, to do go back, because it is so critical to understand why you're actually doing this and where you want to take this. But if you've gone through the last modules, then you're now ready to actually work on your products and your business. And we get this started. Okay, so there is a couple elements that I want to walk you through so you can build your business. There is two things that are kind of a prerequisite for you to build a business that is successful, especially a freedom business. So let's get one thing out of the way in case this hasn't been clear yet. I recommend to you to build something that is based around your knowledge, based around your expertise. So let's get one thing out of the way. If you want to build a freedom business, then it's the best to work with digital products, meaning something that you sell through the internet, but also that you deliver over the internet. This is really the easiest for you if you're looking into building a freedom business. So what does that mean then? There's only two things that you really have to have as a prerequisite to make this work for you. One thing is a certain level of expertise. The other thing is passion for that. Let's cover the first one first. So when I say that you have to have a certain level of expertise, by no means do I say that you have to be like the foremost expert. You don't have to be an authority figure at all or anything like that. But what you do have to have is more knowledge than the people who you teach or service. That is important. Otherwise, you can't really provide value to them, right? So if I teach something about entrepreneurship, it helps being an entrepreneur and having had my failures and successes so I can teach what has worked for me. If you focus on something completely different, just make sure that in the eyes of your audience, you are an expert. You are 1, 2, or 3 steps ahead. By the way, it's a lot better if you haven't been doing something for like 30, 40 years. Usually then you're so deep in it, you're so much in the details that people are having a hard time connecting with you. So the best is actually teaching people who are just those 2 steps behind you. So what would be a couple examples here, right? By no means do I tell you that you should focus on entrepreneurship, you should focus on business, you should focus on marketing, you should focus on sales. Those are topics that I kind of fell for over the last 20 years. But it's actually a lot easier if you focus on industries, on niches, where people are, in general, a lot more, well, passionate about, I would say. So let me give you a couple examples. I know very successful people in the dog training space, right? So a lot of people have dogs. A lot of people have problems when they have dogs. So say somebody has a dog and this dog keeps barking at night or when they're not at home. So there's a lot of value in somebody teaching how to stop your beloved dog from barking when you're gone. It's not too hard to figure out how to do that. If you have like a special approach to that, you can teach other people. You can also have services around that. But let's take another niche for another example. Let's take something in the health space. So one of the guys in my mastermind, he focuses on men over 40 who want to be stronger, right? So obviously that's a very competitive industry, right? But he has a very special niche and a very special way of teaching this and also servicing people, right? So he can have an online class, he can have his own coaching service. He now started a newsletter about this. So we're going to dive into the products. But the one thing I want to drive home here is, so he is a man at the end of his 40s. He has done the workouts, he's done the reps, right? He has done the diets. He has had his failures and successes. So he has a certain level of expertise. Is he Arnold Schwarzenegger? Oh no, he's not. Although he looks very fit and very sexy. But can I say that about another guy? I guess I can. Anyways, so he is awesome, but he's not like the most famous or experienced guy in the world. He's 2 steps ahead of other people. So he has enough expertise, enough knowledge in this field. Let me give you another way of getting to enough of an expert level. So I think if you're watching this, probably in some aspect in your life, you have enough expertise so you can help others get to the next level. Just in case you think you really don't have enough expertise in anything that you are passionate about, you can always just take something you're interested in and document your journey. So this way, you become an expert while you're at it. Let me give you an example. So say I have an interest in arts and specifically pencil drawings. Yes, I'm giving you a random example I'm just coming up with to prove my point. So say drawing with a pencil sketching, right? So I have no idea how to do that. But obviously, there's tutorials out there from other people, right? You can search the internet, you can ask ChatGPT, you can go to a course. Document this and prepare it for other people to consume it more easily. And this way, within quite a short period of time, you are becoming an expert in this. You're learning yourself and you share your journey. This is good enough in many cases to be perceived as the go-to person for a certain subject. Call it expertise. The second thing, as already mentioned, is passion. And I know this is a bit of a stereotype, like follow your passion and shit like this, but trust me, it's important. It just means that you can stick longer to something because as it is with starting your own thing, you will have highs and lows, successes and failures. And if you're passionate about something, it will just help you get back into the game. The other thing about being passionate is that people obviously immediately feel your energy. They feel if your heart beats for something. And it will make a big difference in how people perceive you, perceive the products and services that you're offering. And obviously, they will convert more easily, meaning they will purchase more and more often from you if they feel that you're passionate about something. Very often, and maybe that's wrong, but that's how humans tick, right? Very often, we tend to purchase from somebody because they are passionate and not because they know their shit. The great thing is that this is perfectly aligned with the exercise that we did about the Ikigai. So the one thing for you to do now is to take that one thing, maybe it is exactly what you figured out in the Ikigai exercise, and make sure that you go all in on this. Build enough expertise on that thing that is your Ikigai and that you want to focus on with your business. Make sure that you're passionate enough to stick with this for a couple of years. And then you go all in on this. So there's one thing that you need to do before you're allowed to move on to the next lesson. It's really critical. Take a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, you write the niche you will operate in. So for me, this is entrepreneurship and it's education. For you, it might be education and dogs. It might be a service for art, or it might be something completely different. Write that on paper. So what I'm saying is that, of course, you can change your mind, you can change your industry later on. But in an ideal world, you already feel, you already know what you want to focus on. And you're making your life a lot easier if you just put this on paper now and you stick with it. Okay, done? Perfect. Then move on to the next lesson. It's going to be a bit more complex, but I'll make it as easy as possible because we are going to define what the actual problems are that you will solve. And this way, getting a lot closer to your actual products and services that you can then sell. All right, welcome back to another lesson. So by now, you should know what kind of model to use to build your freedom business. And of course, you should have clarity on what kind of industry, what niche you want to be focusing on. So no matter if you want to focus on something health related or something money related or a hobby or a passion of yours, it doesn't really matter when it comes to building your most important thing of it all. Are you ready? Okay, we're obviously speaking about your offer. And your offer really is the most underappreciated, undervalued, and I don't know, just overlooked part of your business. So I want you to be very clear here, right? This is something you have to master. If you master your offer, everything, literally everything else will be a lot easier. No matter if you're like a marketing pro, a sales pro, if you feel great in front of camera or not, or whatever it is, master the offer and everything else will be easier. You ready? So let's get that straight. Your offer is the most important thing in your business. You can screw up a lot of other parts. The offer, you cannot. This, you have to nail. Okay? Are you ready? All right, so let's do that. So why do I say that the offer is the most critical part here? Well, it's very obvious. I mean, just imagine you do not have an offer. And don't worry, we're going to dive into what an offer actually is in just a minute. But I think it's kind of obvious that if you don't have an offer, you don't have a business. If you have a bad offer, which a lot of businesses actually have, then you're probably struggling. And you see a lot of these businesses out there, right? Where you kind of wonder how they survive in the first place. Or you also see a lot of businesses who just have to shut their doors. Did you know that about 50% of businesses have to close down within the first 5 years? That's not really good. You do not want to be one of these businesses, okay? So what you want is at least a good offer. Good offers are usually those that you see by businesses that have been around for a long time, right? Could be like a mom and pop store around the corner, could be something online, doesn't really matter, but something that you see working. So where you want to be is in a place where your offer is so strong that people can't help but take it from you. So this is what is often called an irresistible offer, or I call it like the $1 million offer. No matter how you want to call it, this is where we're going to go in this lesson. So let's keep it simple and walk through 3 steps. All right. So the first step is actually understanding what an offer is. So what is an offer? A lot of people think an offer is a product that they're selling, or an offer is a special discount for a special occasion. I think all of this is wrong. What an offer actually is a transition, a solution that gets you from A to B. Let me explain. So point A is really the status quo. It's something where somebody is right now and where they're facing issues. They have challenges, they have problems. Point B is where they want to go. It's their dream outcome. It's what they want for themselves. So they're at point A, not so good, and they want to go to point B. This is where they want to be. What you offer here is a solution. And that solution that you're offering is your offer. Make sense? So let me give you an example. So let's actually take this course. So point A might be a point where somebody who's watching this is struggling with financial challenges in their life. Might be a point where they're stressed out, burned out, bored out, right? And point B is a place where they have a working business that provides them with a lot of money, time, freedom, happiness. This course is part of an offering, part of a solution that gets you from the struggle to a place of happiness and freedom. Make sense? Okay, so this is the first thing. You got to understand where your target audience currently is at, what's point A, and where do they want to go, point B. I'll give you an easy example, right? And you're going to apply this to your own target audience. Let's say you have a dog, or your target audience is having a dog, right? And the dog is barking at night. Point A, barking dog at night. Neighbors are enraged. You can sleep at night. It's shit. Point B, everybody is sleeping like babies. Well, actually, babies don't sleep that well. But anyways, you know what I mean, all right? So it's a really nice place. Sleeping dog, sleeping neighbors, all right? Step number 2, and I already hinted at that, is listing all the problems that your target audience currently has, all right? So don't forget, you have decided what niche you're working in, what's your industry, right? And you have defined your target audience, the people who you want to help with. And now you list all of the problems. And this is crucial. You want to dive deep into what bugs them. Everything, right? If it helps, take a drink or just meditate, right? Either way, take your time and list everything that is challenging for them. All the problems that people have getting from their A to their B. Very, very important, all right? And then what you do, step 3 out of only 3 steps is you list solutions. Not that hard, is it? Okay, so let's take the barking dog as an example again, right? So take the example with the dog again, right? So the dog is barking at night, right? People want to have their quiet nights. So the problems are, it actually wakes them up at night. The dog is hungry. Maybe the dog is not only barking, but there's a lot of other issues as well. There is neighbors banging on your door, asking you to shut up, all of these stuff. List those problems. And then part 3, the solutions, right? So the important thing here is that you do not jump to conclusions yet. You do not want to pitch a product yet. All you want is understand what kind of solutions are needed. This is very important, and I got this wrong many, many years. So let me give you an example. For the dog, right? You do not want to offer a solution in terms of like a sleeping pill for the dog, right? Or getting rid of the dog or stuff like this, right? What you want is you want to address the problem and rephrase it. So what you could do is like, the solution is how to make sure the dog is quiet at night. I know it sounds basic, but you do that for all the problems. So next one will be how to make sure your neighbors can properly sleep at night, right? How to make sure your dog is not hungry at night. How to, okay? So these are the solutions. Why do we do that? Because by understanding what kind of solutions we actually want to offer, we're open to different kinds of delivery modes and different kinds of actual products, okay? So do not jump to conclusions. Make sure to only address the problem and phrase your solutions, okay? If you want, pause the video and do that right now. All you want to ask is, what do I need to show my clients, my customers, my prospects? What do I need to show them to solve the problems? All right, so you know what an offer actually is. You know that you have to understand the problems that people are facing, and you do know that you can come up with a pretty simple list of solutions for that. Not that hard, right? Okay, let's come to the bit more challenging part that most people ignore. What do you think is actually the most important factor when you're crafting your irresistible offer? What is it that makes it irresistible? It is a very, very high perceived value. So let me make that clear. It's not the actual value that you're providing. So obviously you want to provide very high value, but it's not the real value that will make people purchase or not. It's the value that these people perceive. Okay? So how do you actually increase the perceived value of your offer? It's pretty simple, actually. We're taking use of a formula here that has helped me a lot. So on top, you'll find the dream outcome, the thing that somebody is looking for. Then you multiply that with the likelihood of that dream actually coming true, of your offer actually working. And then at the bottom, you have time that somebody has to invest to make that solution work for them, and then the effort that they need to put into it. So a lot of entrepreneurs focus on the top part. They want to nail the dream outcome and want to prove that they can make it happen. And that's good. We're going to dive into this first. But more importantly, you actually have to make sure that people understand that it doesn't take a lot of time and a lot of effort to make this true for them. All right? So always think about how you can increase the perceived value of the solutions that you have come up with. All right, so first, we're gonna start with looking at the dream outcome. And when you're looking at the dream outcome of people, always think, how would these people, how would your target audience, your avatar, envision themselves at point B? This is all that matters. Imagine you're in their position. What are they feeling? And when in doubt, here is a little secret I want to share with you. And trust me, I didn't come up with that. And I'm not trying to stereotype here, but psychology has shown that both men and women are usually mostly after one thing and one thing only. Here's the cold hard truth. They all look for one thing, and it's status. So again, it's a bit stereotypical, but seems to be true for almost every human being on this planet Earth. So for women, it's often about the perceived beauty, how beautiful people think they are, which is, in many terms, what seems to increase their status in society. For guys, pretty obvious as well, it's power, often measured by money or their economic success. So in case you're not sure what to point at, start there. It's usually a winner. Okay, second point, the likelihood. So you know that when you look at ads or anything that is offered anywhere, many times, especially online, what you see is a lot of like social proofs, a lot of like certifications, a lot of testimonials. This is why those assets are being used, right? You want to make sure that as much as you can, you get the job done. All right, now let's move to the time and the effort piece, because I think this is really crucial and will help you a lot, specifically when you're just starting out, when your brand is not as strong or you don't have gazillions of testimonials yet. Because one thing you can always stand out with, that is how much time and effort people actually have to put into your solution to make something work for them. All right, let me give you an example. So one of my mentees, I had a call with him yesterday, and he's actually designing websites, offering like funnel services and marketing services for people. Now, obviously, he's in a very, very competitive market. There's a lot of people designing websites. So what he's doing is he has a competitive price and he has a lot of pieces right. But what sets him really apart is that instead of clients having to speak with him like hours and hours, have to sit with him, provide feedback and all of that, he just has like a 2-hour call with people, and that's all he needs to build a very specific niche website and starting his marketing services. That's great. If somebody came to me and said, hey, I can build the same thing as everybody else, but it's better in this, this, and this, it makes you get closer to your dream outcome faster, but also it only takes like 1 or 2 hours of your time and it's done, I would totally buy it. So this sets him apart. But it's not just the time, it's also the effort, right? So building a website usually is kind of like a painstaking process, and he makes all of that a lot easier and a lot less painful. So start here. Make sure that your solution is just easier for people. If that means that you have to hustle a bit harder in the beginning, that's okay, right? You can make it easier on yourself later on. You can optimize the process and everything. In the beginning, just make sure that you have a really, really irresistible offer that takes away all the roadblocks. All right, so now that you have the formula, go back to your list of solutions and create some more. Make sure that you look at each of the 4 components. Go back to your list of solutions and create more of those solutions that are optimized for those 4 elements. All right, good. Then let's move to a last point for this lesson that is also very, very important. And I know you've seen these things around. I call them offer enhancers, right? So whereas what we covered so far is kind of like intrinsic, it's within your product and it's at the very core, there's also parts that you can like put on top of it, right? They're kind of external, but they also enhance not just the value that people perceive when they see your offer, but that really makes them make a move, right? That really gets them to take action. All right, so you got the long list? Perfect. So here are 4 more tricks that make your offer stand out. And I'm sure you have seen them around. They change the perception of how easy it is to get your offer, how safe it is to get your offer, right? And how good of a deal it is. All right, so the first part is called scarcity, and I'm sure you have seen it around. It's basically the old trick where you tell people there is only a limited quantity available. Now, when I say trick, I don't mean that you should actually trick people and you should not make false claims. Actually, for a lot of offers, there is actually a limited supply. If you offer any sort of service, you probably couldn't take 1,000 new clients tomorrow. And the same is true for most other offers as well. So if there is any limit to the amount, the quantity that you can supply at any given time, make sure that you communicate that. The more scarcity there is in place, so meaning the smaller the amount of available products, the more fear of missing out you will create, and the more likely people will be to purchase right away. And right away brings us to the next enhancer, which is actually urgency. So whenever it makes sense and you can use it, make sure that you tell people that there is only limited time. Okay, so say that you have a special offer, then obviously it makes sense for you to cap that in time. So it's only available, say, for 7 days or whatever time frame you want to offer. This comes naturally when there is like a holiday or something and you see that everywhere. But you can also come up with any urgency by yourself, simply by telling people that you have this special promotion, or you just feel like it. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you tell people that this specific offer is limited in time, and you will see your sales go up. So number 3 is bonuses. What you want to do is you want to take one of the products that we are going to create in the next lesson, and you just give it to people on top of your regular offer for free. So you will see that some people just take your offer because of the bonus. Has happened to me many, many times, where people purchase the interest thing because they want the bonus. For you, it's very easy. For example, you could tell people that this bonus, they only get within the next 3 days, or only the next 10 customers will get that bonus. Very easy to combine with the other 2 enhancers. Number 4 and last enhancer that I really want you to use is a very, very strong guarantee. So what you basically want to tell people is that there is no risk. They can try whatever you offer, and if they don't like it, they can return it. So of course, in some cases, you can't just give like 100% money back guarantee or something like this. Sometimes there has to be a condition, but don't over-engineer this. The fact of the matter is that it is very rare that people actually take advantage of a guarantee. So here is a little hack actually. The longer the time frame of your guarantee, the less people take advantage of it. So if you can, just offer like a 1-year guarantee, like 365 days. I promise you, everybody, or almost everybody, will forget about the guarantee and not actually ask you for money back, okay? Just make sure that if it is something that cannot actually be taken back, you have the right conditions in place. Maybe sometimes somebody has to do a certain part of a program, or they have to use the product in a certain way, or something like this. Think about the conditions that you have to have in place, and then just roll with it. You'll see concrete examples when we cover the pages later on. For now, just have those 4 enhancers in mind when you go through your list of solutions and how you can increase the perceived value of those. All right, this is a little bit of work for you, so maybe pause here before you go to the next lesson, and let's get to work. So you have the long list of solutions, but now the question is, how do you actually use them for different delivery vehicles? Because this is what products really are, okay? So what I recommend is to take that long list, but now you look at each and every one of these solutions and you think how these solutions could be delivered in different ways. So first of all, look into how many people you want to deliver that solution to. So think about how would that solution look like if I delivered it to only one person? How would it look delivered to a small group? And how would it have to look or could look if I delivered the same solution to a big group of people, many people? I'll give you an example. Maybe if you delivered the solution to one person, you could just sit down with that person and talk. Or maybe you would just do it for them entirely, right, as a service. Then for a group, probably it's gonna be a bit different. You could still do it as a service, but maybe you need a lot of automation for that. Maybe you create a tool for that, right? Or maybe you have the group members engage with each other to make the solution a reality. And then of course, if you have like a one-to-many solution, say you wanna have the same solution for thousands or even more people. If you want to do that, obviously you couldn't sit with each and every one of these people. So you have to think about it differently. So my challenge for you here is now, take each and every one of these solutions and think, how could you deliver them to just one person, to a group, or to many? And then building on that, think about how would the solution have to look like if I did it for somebody, or if I did it with somebody together, or if I would just tell them how to do it and they do it themselves. All right, good. Then again, take the same list and think about the level of support that you want to give and how you want to give that support. So what if you would only communicate with people via email? Maybe your solution would have to look different to speaking in person with people, or having like a WhatsApp chat channel, right? Or you have a wiki, or you have like a membership site, or you have a course. Maybe you have an on-site training center, right? Maybe you have a team of coaches or consultants. Think what is the support system that you can offer, and again, list the different solutions for these different levels or types of support. And then lastly, and I think this is super critical, think about the way that people consume. You could deliver via online video, you could deliver via DVDs like back in the days, or VHS, maybe not anymore. You could deliver in person, all right? So think about the different ways that would work for you, and most importantly, would give the biggest benefit to people. All right? Good. Do all of that, and then you really have a big list. So next step is obviously understanding what kind of products you want to create from that list, and then we'll trim it down, and then you're done with the products. All right, and one last level that you want to look into when it comes to delivery of your solutions is the time frame. So obviously, when you look at the perceived problems of people, there is a time before they get in touch with a solution, during a solution, and after the solution. So factor that in as well, and you will have even more ideas of what your delivery vehicle and your actual product could look like. All right, so we're done with the list. Pause the video, finish the list, and then I'll show you the 3 types of products that you want to create from that list. Okay, so what do you do with that list now? How do you get from that list to the actual products? There is 2 more steps. Step 1 is you gotta understand what kind of products do you actually want to create. And I have a little tool here that can help you, and I call it a product matrix, okay? So basically there's 2 things that you look into when you create your products. On the one hand side, the price. Obviously, there is cheap products and there is expensive products, right? Or low and high price points. That's one side that you want to look at. The other side is the depth of the experience that you provide, right? So what happens is that you will be in front of people who are at different parts in their journey, at different stages, right? Some people will just start out with solving their problems. Some people will be more advanced. And what you want to do is you want to offer your solutions for different parts of journeys. So what typically happens is that people who are just starting out, right? Who have, well, less experience in solving problems, who are not as far ahead, they're typically not ready to invest as much money, but also they don't need as much depth. So you want to offer these people a kind of basic product, right? Something that is more like a quick fix, something that helps them get started, something that gets them on their way. Usually people are not ready to invest a lot of resources, right? So it's something cheaper and something that takes less time for them to go through. Remember, the 2 main resources people have in general, or that they're willing to spend at least, are money and time, right? That's what they focus on. So you want to offer something with lower price and less depth, something that is just easier for them to consume. So typically that's something like a tripwire offer. So examples for that would be like a PDF guide, or like a cheat sheet, or a very simple short course, something like that. All right. So still same solutions, but the delivery mode is obviously different, right? It's short, it's easy to consume, it's cheap. So that's one of the 3 products you typically want to build based on that long list that you have drafted. With the benefit of it being very fast to produce, right? It's also quite easy to sell because it's cheap, there's less friction. But of course, there's a lot of negative points about this as well, which is mainly that typically such a tripwire offer is not profitable. It's quite hard to make it profitable. But the biggest benefit of such a tripwire product is that it's pretty fast to create, and also it's quite easy to sell, right? It's also a great way to have people enter your world and later upsell them. That is why I absolutely recommend to create this kind of product. On the negative side of things is that typically it's kind of like a loss leader, meaning that it's not profitable. You usually do not make money with that product, but from the sales that come after that. All right, so just keep that in mind when you go through your list. The second kind of product out of 3 that you typically want to create is like a core offer. That's something that is a lot more expensive, and it's meant for people who are further in their journey. They just need more information and need more of you so they can get to the next level. So whereas a tripwire offer is typically way below $100, mine are usually like $7, $17, $29, something like this. The core offer, the product number 2, that still offers kind of the same solutions, but a lot more and in more depth, are often a few $100s. So typically from like $100 to like $1,000. There's no set rule for that, but it's typically a price point where people need a lot more information to convert, but also it's a lot more profitable. This is where you usually make the biggest chunk of money. So these are in-depth courses, right? Like maybe this one here. These are paid communities where people pay anything between 30, 40 bucks or up to 300, 400, 500 a month, which then of course gets you to the $100 to $1,000 area if you consider the lifetime value of that product as well. That could be like mastermind groups, something like this, or of course a lot of services actually fall within that spectrum. If you look online, there's a gazillion of different offers for services, specifically tools that sell for $100, $200, $300, depending on what they are. So one of the biggest benefits here is of course the money that you can make. I call this the core offer because usually this is where you make 50% and more of your money. Sometimes 70, 80% actually. All right. The downside of that, of course, is that's a bit harder to sell. So depending on your ad budget and how much resources you have, it can be a bit tricky to make that work. All right. So there is a cheap product that is easier for people to consume. There is a core product or several core products, right, that really make you money and are like an intermediate level basically when it comes to depth of the content. And then, of course, there has to be a third product. And this is the high ticket item, as a lot of people call it. This is your one-on-one coaching or maybe one-to group coaching. These are more expensive services, anything like that, where you typically charge a couple $1,000, euros, yen for, well, a month that you deliver that service. More often than not, your clients would stick around for a couple of months and then churn. But this is definitely still the kind of product that will bring you the biggest amount of money per client. So how does that work? How many of these products do you typically have? So in general, I recommend to have one single high ticket item. That's all you can really handle, usually, because these people need a lot more of your attention or your team's attention. Then for the core products, I actually recommend having just one, but if it's like an online course or something, you might want to have 2 or 3 or 4 down the line because these are great upsells and increase the amount of money you can make from a happy customer. And then when it comes to tripwires, like the little cheap things, you typically have 1 or 2 that work very well, but you can definitely churn out a lot of those. You can produce a lot of those and basically just split test what works best and then just run with whatever gives you the best performance. So how many of these products you actually need? In general, I recommend you do 1 or 2. You don't usually want to have all 3. It's just too much in the beginning. You will get distracted and lost. So there is a rule that you want to have in place for which product to start with. In general, if you need cash fast, I actually recommend you start with a high ticket item. It's harder to create, but it generates cash flow a lot faster. Say you sell something for, you come up with a number, $2,000. How many clients do you actually need for $2,000 to have a decent way of life? Depends on how much money you need. Might be 1, might be 10, but you don't have to sell thousands, right? So obviously coming up with enough value for that is a bit more challenging, but if you position it right, then we're gonna dive into that and take people on a journey, it's actually doable to sell it specifically to people who you already know. If you're looking for automation and the bigger revenue numbers, the bigger profits, then absolutely focus on a one-to-many system, like a course. So now that you know that you wanna create 1 or 2 products, go back to your long list of solutions and score them. We're gonna make this very, very quick, all right? Just draw like a line next to it and score the different solutions based on 2 factors. First of all, how much does it cost you to deliver that solution? And then 2, how valuable is that solution? You don't actually have to put like a monetary term next to it, just score it like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, right? You'll figure it out. Just make sure that you can compare the different solutions when it comes to the resource investment that you need, when it comes to the cost of delivering that solution. And then when it comes to the actual value, probably you already know by going through this course, but if you don't, go back to that equation, right? To that formula And then you will see how valuable that solution probably is. You got it? All right, pause the video and do it now. You done? Okay, all right. So now you just multiply the two numbers and there is your scoring. What you do is then obviously you rank all of those solutions and you take the ones with the highest value. Now, the one thing that is a bit tricky here is that you want to take only those, of course, that work with the type of solution that you're looking for. So if you offer like a high ticket item, something that is very valuable and more in depth, you take more. If it's something like a tripwire, like a cheap, easy consumer offer, you take less. Either way, make sure those are high value items. You scrap all the rest and you bundle them into one or two of these three products. And that's it. There you have your products. I believe this is very, very different to just thinking about what do I want to sell. So you will see that these products are very, very different to what you might have created without that process. So there you go. This is your product suite. That's all you need in terms of products. Now, don't get me wrong, you still have to create these products, you still have to do that. But quite frankly, that's not the challenging part. The challenging part is to understand what actually goes into your product and how to sell it. And selling is actually what we're gonna dive into when we go to the next model. So first, I wanna show you a couple of the typical mistakes that people make when they move forward, and then we're gonna build your sales machine. Let's go. Congratulations for making it until here. If you're watching this now, I see that you are serious about this and you're definitely ahead of the curve. Let's now just make sure that you're avoiding a couple of the very common mistakes that people make and that I certainly have been victim of more than once, okay? So the top 4 mistakes that people make when they're building a freedom business are the following. First of all, the biggest mistake of them all, I believe, is trying to be innovative. Now again, of course, if you're building the next Apple, if you're building the next Google, innovation is what you have to focus on. But I've built a couple of startups, and let me tell you, building something innovative can be super cool, but it's usually not the freedom business journey. You can build something amazing and exit it, and then maybe you're good for life when it comes to your finances. This is not what we're focusing on here though. We're focusing on something that you keep or partially exit, but that you actually enjoy, right? And have it as an enabler for the life you're looking for. So again, do not, I don't know, this might be a hot take here, but do not be innovative. What you do want to do is use what you're learning in this program. And with this new sets of eyes, look at the different business models around you and use what you see working. Do not be innovative. Use what is working, put your own twist on it, of course, and use that, okay? So I'm not telling you to copy anything, of course not. Be true to yourself. Use everything that we have gone through in the program so far. But when it comes to business model, when it comes to making the whole system work, please stick to stuff that has been working thousands and thousands of times. At least if you want to be successful, and focus not only on the struggle, but actually on the joyful parts of building a business. So that was number 1. Please do not seek innovation. Seek stuff that works and make it your own. Favorite mistake number 2 is building big teams. Why would that be a mistake? Well, let me tell you, I've never built companies with thousands of employees, but I've had my share of bigger teams. And there's a lot of benefits of that. And I loved working with most of my teams, but there's a lot of challenges. The biggest one, of course, is the burn rate that you're building. So obviously you as the entrepreneur, you are responsible for your people, for your team. And that comes at different levels. The first one, the most obvious one, probably is that you have to pay those people salaries. And that just puts a lot of pressure on your business. You don't really want to have that pressure. What you want is freedom, right? freedom and the responsibilities of having a very high burn rate that you have to finance, that doesn't really go hand in hand very well. At least that's not how I see it. Also, there's a lot of responsibilities because these people really are dependent on you in certain aspects of your life. So I don't think you only have the responsibility of paying those salaries, but of course you have an emotional responsibility, a social responsibility. And for me personally, it just makes a lot more sense to handpick the people that you need in your business, but try to keep the team size as small as possible. So that's, I believe, the biggest mistake number 2, trying to build a big team because big teams mean you have a successful business. I actually think the smaller your team, the more profitable your business, the more successful it really is. Number 3, please, I urge you, do not take other people's money. I know a lot of people when they're starting out, they think, I just need an investor. I just need somebody to help me finance that vehicle and then we're off to a good start. I actually think it's exactly the opposite. You do not want to take other people's money. I've certainly fallen into this trap of working for investors instead of working for providing the biggest amount of value to my customers. And this is what you should do. You always want to be a man or a woman of value, of service, but to your actual customers. Your investors are not your customers. And you never want to work for your investors' goals, okay? So please focus on providing value and stay as lean as possible. Do everything you can to finance the business from the actual cash flow that you're generating. This helps you to actually keep the cost structure slim and really have the independency that you want to have. Now, once the business is running, if you're looking into scaling and funding cash flow, maybe there is an opportunity in taking a partner on board. Maybe there's an opportunity of taking money. But first, you want to make sure that you can do it yourself, okay? So this is biggest mistake number 3, I believe. Taking somebody else's money, or even worse, focusing so much on getting money from somebody else that you're not actually focusing on the core essence of your business. And then biggest mistake number 4 is not doing things KISS. You know what KISS standing for, right? This one, but also of course, keeping it simple. Stupid, right? So the best businesses, when you're looking for freedom and having an awesome life, are the most simple businesses. So whenever you have a decision coming up, please look for the easiest, the most lazy, the most simple solution. More often than not, it's the one you want. And that goes into each and every direction. That goes into hiring, if you have to hire. That goes into tools that you're using. That certainly goes into the different products that you build. It goes into really everything. Keep it simple, keep it fun, and just make sure that you work along the 5 spokes of the freedom business model, and you're off to a good start. All right, this is concluding module 3 of our course here. And with that, you went very far. You actually have a business that you can start. And this is exactly what we're gonna do in the next module. Next up, we are going to build your sales machine, including the pages that you need, the mail sequences to sell, and the traffic, meaning sending people to your offering so you can make money. So how do you feel? Isn't that a cool journey? I really love it. Every time I build a new business, I go through the same kind of steps and they just work. So for you, I hope that you actually went through the exercise of understanding how that full circle life could look like. And then you moved ahead and worked on your business and the 5 different aspects that you just have to make work for you. And then specifically, speaking about the business that you're building now, you looked into what kind of offer will make you stand out and will make this business of yours work for you. So now after going through the last module, you also have your product suite defined. By the way, congratulations for doing that. I think in the beginning, it can be a bit mind-boggling, but this was so crucial for you to do. You will see that everything else will now become so much more easy if you did that right. So now we're looking at a new module, and this module is all about crafting your conversion machine. So basically our goal here is to take people from I have no idea who this guy is and what he is offering me to, well, I really enjoy this, I like this, and I want to purchase from that person, from that company. Now, the thing is that as with your life and your business overall, you can and must design this process. And you want to design it from the very first touch point to the very last upsell. In a way that people get to know you, get to enjoy you, start purchasing from you, and keep purchasing from you. This way, you're in full control and you can maximize the customer lifetime value of your clients. So I wish you could just take your irresistible offer, show it to somebody, and they would be all crazy about it and purchase it. Sometimes this happens. If you have a really, really outstanding offer and you hit people at the right time, this will happen. But we want to make sure that this is evergreen and as automatic as possible. So what you want to do is you want to actually design the journey in a way so that it works for as many people in your target audience as possible. And the best way to compare this to something else that you might know is dating. Have you ever dated? Have you ever met a new partner? Have you ever been looking for a new partner? No matter if you're looking for a romantic partner or you're looking for a business partner or a partner in anything else, most likely it's not like you're just approaching somebody and you will end up in a lifelong relationship. There's a couple stages that your relationship has to go through. This lesson is about these steps and what they mean in your journey and for your freedom business. So let's dive into it. So what you see here is a typical customer journey, like a sales circle, if you wish, right? And again, let's go back to the dating example. I think that's quite easy to understand, and it puts the whole sales process in a different perspective, okay? So let's say you are in a bar. Makes sense, right? Okay. So let's say I'm not here alone and with the camera team, they're all looking very handsome, but let's say there is a beautiful girl here. I would love to start a relationship in whatever way with that girl. So what should I do? Well, apart from me being nervous and not exactly knowing what words to use, the one thing that I want to do is I want to engage with that girl. And before I can engage with that girl, I need to make her aware of myself, right? And it's the very same in a marketing process. So the first phase that you want to look into is being recognized, having the awareness of somebody, right? So there's a lot of ways how you can do that. In general, I like to do that by using social media, right? And we'll dive into ways of how to do that most effectively. Once you have gotten in front of somebody, right, and they are aware of you, you need some form of engagement. In a bar, that might just be having eye contact, or it might be me walking over there and saying hello. It's the same for an online marketing process. Somehow you have to put your creatives, your story, your products in front of people and make them engage with that. Take the example of a social post. So you just put something on Instagram and a potential customer views your post, maybe even comments on it. That's an engagement. That's great. That's a first touch point that you have designed in your sales journey. What's the next step? Again, that person might not be ready yet for a lifelong relationship or purchasing from you. So the next step typically is you want to make that person subscribe. In dating, probably that will be collecting a phone number, right? In online marketing, it's often the phone number nowadays, or it's an email address, or it's some other form of communication. Either way, you want to make sure that this person actually says, yes, that's cool. I want to hear from you. I'm not exactly sure what a conversion could mean in dating. Maybe it's a kiss or just a first date. In marketing, it's typically either a lead, so meaning that people give you more contact details and are telling you that you can get in touch with them again, or it's a sale, typically some kind of a tripwire sale. Remember, that's a cheap product that you offer first. Next, you want to excite people. Again, same as for dating. You want to have a second date, right? Well, at least let's assume you really like that girl. In marketing, it's actually a lot easier because I'm pretty sure that you want to sell more. So you want to excite people with your first product, with your first offering. If you did the last exercise in the last module, right, you will definitely excite that customer. So once you have that person excited, it's ready to move to the next step, which is selling stuff that actually makes you money. Or in dating, I'm not sure what you're looking for, but if you're looking for a long-term relationship, in this example at least, maybe that's moving in together, right? So in marketing, what you want to do is you want to sell the first core offer. So that's the next step. And of course, once somebody has bought from you and once somebody is excited about the stuff that you have to offer, they are a lot more likely to purchase more from you. And this is where the value ladder comes in. And what you see here in that graphic, you see there's a couple of boxes here, right? And these are the different offers that you have. So we said that typically you have one or two offers, right? So here you offer the second product, and then later down the line, you might have a third offer. You offer that as well. Or you have more core offers, more of like the medium kind of stage offers. You offer them in sequence. Either way, once somebody has bought from you, they're a lot more open to get more from you. And this is where you can make your business thrive. This is where you can make a lot of profits. And then, of course, once people have purchased as much as possible from you, there is more stages. Specifically, you want people to recommend you to their circles and so forth. But let's focus on these first journeys and let's make sure that we have all of this automated. This is going to be the biggest chunk of the next upcoming lessons. I just want to make sure that whenever you think about how to sell something online, have two things in mind. First of all, you can design, and you must design the journey that people walk through. You don't want to just sit in your store and wait for people to appear, because usually nobody will, right? You want to make sure that you're attracting the right kind of people. And what we cover in this module, you have a machine, a conversion machine ready for them, where each and every touch point is designed to make customers happy and in turn purchase more from you. All right, so next lesson, we're going to look specifically into how this translates into an online funnel that makes you money. All right, so in the last lesson, we looked into how to date online. Well, not really, how to sell online, but it works very much like dating, at least I think it does. All right, so how do we translate that into an actual online sales journey, or what a lot of people call a funnel? So if you look online, there's a lot of examples, a lot of people talk about it. I want to make sure that you understand both the basics and then have a very concrete example, actually the stuff that I use, right? So you can copy paste it and use it for yourself, okay? All right, so what is a funnel? Well, basically a funnel is an automated process that you give to people so they can move through the different stages of your conversion journey, right? Okay, so what are the typical elements do you have in there? There's only three. It's not that fancy, okay? Number one, and this is the most important one, are pages. So obviously, we're selling stuff online here, right? In case you haven't realized, that's what we built here, right? An online business. So what you want to have is different pages. And the reason for these pages to be there is, first of all, it's your best way of showing your offer, okay? And then secondly, through magic tech, people can then only purchase on those pages, all right? So pages is the number one thing. Secondly, what we need are emails. And that might surprise you a little bit because a lot of people disregard emails nowadays. But let me tell you, they're super important. These are the element number 2 that we're going to look into. And element number 3 that we're going to dive into is traffic, right? Traffic basically meaning people coming to your pages and to your email lists in interest of what you have to say or have to offer. So what you see here now is a simple graphic of how such a funnel typically looks like. It starts with some kind of traffic, right? So some ad or online piece that makes people awareness, you remember, of what you have to offer. And because of that, they come to one of your pages. On that page, you tell people about your offer, and some of these people will convert. When they convert, meaning that they purchase something or at least they become a lead, depending on what's your conversion point, right? They get to the next page. On that next page, you offer something else to people. If they purchase that too, they get to the next page. And so you line up your different offers for people in an effort for having people purchase as much as you have to offer straight away. And then you see emails. So emails are basically your best way of bringing people back to your offer and to the next stage. That's it. Not that hard, right? The cool thing is you can design it. So what we're going to look into next is my go-to funnel that I use for selling my knowledge, digital products, digital services, or whatever else I sell really. It always follows the same structure. So we're going to look into organic and leads later on. If you look at the main funnel, you will see that I mostly work with meta ads, so that's Facebook and Instagram ads or partnerships, and this is the traffic I get into my funnel. Now, first, understand that there is a couple pages there, right? I told you before, pages are how we communicate what we offer, right? This is where we show our products, right? Our solutions. So what you see here is basically 2 white and red pages. Those are the sales pages. This is where I tell people, this is what I have, and you can purchase it. And then there's a couple additional pages. The most important one is the checkout page. So you first see a sales page, then you see a checkout page, meaning this is where people can pay through an online service like Stripe or PayPal or whatever you want to use and provide to people so they can pay with their bank details, their credit card, or whatever, right? Then you have another sales page. That's for my core offer. So the first one is a tripwire offer. People purchase the tripwire offer, and then I follow up with my core offer. And then, depending on what I'm selling, I have a couple other offers lined up, and at the very end, there is a thank you page that I show to people. All right? Pretty straightforward. So this is already the most important part. You have traffic, and we'll dive into how you can attract traffic, how you can attract people to get to your pages, right? Then you have the pages, and we're going to dive into how these pages have to look like, but you have pages. And then people move from page to page. So you know how a funnel looks like in real life, right? It's very wide at the top, and then it becomes more and more narrow further down. The same is true for an online funnel. This is where the name comes from, right? So a lot of people come into the funnel, right? So these are people who come to the first page. And then the further down the funnel you get, the less people are in there. Most people in an online funnel bounce, meaning that they do not continue in the funnel. So a typical example would be that like out of 100 people who come to your first page, maybe only 3 or 5, or depending on what you offer, actually go to the next stage. Over 90%, usually over 95, sometimes 99% of people will actually bounce. They will not purchase anything. So it's of course super critical to try to re-engage those people. There's different ways of how you can do that. My preferred way is trying to capture the email address of these people or maybe a phone number. This way, you can re-engage with these people at your terms. So basically, you just automatically have emails sent to these people, and we'll dive into the emails you can send here too. But this way, you can get people back into the funnel, send them the same offer, the tripwire offer again, or send them to other stages within your funnel, and you're not completely losing them along the way. All right, so this is what we're gonna build over the next couple of lessons. Just remember, you've understood that marketing is basically like dating, and you wanna design the different touch points that people walk through. So now let's dive into the different pages and the emails that you need to make this work. Before then, in the next 2 models, we're going to dive into traffic. Let's go. All right, so now you know what a funnel is, but I want to make it super, super simple for you and actually give you the pages that you need. All right, so I'll give you my pages. You can copy paste them. Just make sure to actually go back to your products, your solutions, and make sure that you do change the copy, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense. But do use my layouts, and most importantly, use the different elements that I'm using to get you ahead of the game. All right, so I want to show you 5 pages today that you will most certainly need if you work with a funnel. All right, 4 of those pages you've already seen in the funnel in the last session, and I want to give you 1 more just in case you need it. So the first page I want to give to you is a lead capture page, also called an opt-in page. So basically what you do here is you collect contact information of people in exchange for something that you give to them for free, right? So the important thing here is that you actually give something away that is in line with your offering later on, because you use this to actually segment your audience. Or in other words, you only want people to actually get your free stuff and opt into your list, meaning giving you their contact details, who potentially would also be interested in your main offering. A page like this has a very, very simple setup. And I'll show you one here that a lot of people use, including myself. This is one of my pages. So typically you have a headline that just sticks out and addresses a core pain point right away, or looks into the solution that you're offering. All right, you might want to use a subheadline to explain further what it's about. You can include an image, but then there's 2 elements that are crucial. One is that you want to list the benefits. So what is a person getting if they opt in, right? So of course, this is what we have been working on. This is the solution that you're offering, right? In this case, for a free, short, less commitment kind of product. And then the last part is a call to action. Put your details here for instant access or something similar. Then you have the form where people put in their contact details, and then you have the submit button. This very page that you see here, for me, actually has about a 56% conversion rate on the right kind of traffic. So you see that converts very well if you send the right kind of traffic. All right, so let's move to arguably one of the most important pages that you can have, which is your sales page. And we're gonna start with a tripwire sales page. All right, so there's a couple elements that you wanna have in place. And again, you will see exactly how this is done. Just make sure you use the structure and not copy my text word by word, because it has to make sense for your solution. So on top, typically what you have again is a strong headline. Nowadays, you don't even need like professional copywriter for that. Just fire up ChatGPT and ask for really cool headlines and tell the AI what you're looking for, how long it should be, and so forth, right? In general, just keep it to like 2 lines, maximum 3 lines. And make sure that you're actually telling people about the solution, right? Again, point the problems, point at the solution, right? Then what I like to do is actually have a brief sales video. And I gotta put an extra lesson into this course for you, where I'm gonna give you the exact steps that you can walk through in your video. So it's super easy for you, because I know creating your first sales video can be a little bit intimidating, but it's actually super easy if you have the right format. What I like to have below the sales video is a call to action and a button that gets people to the checkout page right away if they are already ready to purchase. If they're not ready, if they want more information, we have a couple additional elements that we want to put in front of them. One thing I would do is give them a graphic or like an image of the product. Now, if you sell something physical, that's kind of easy, but most freedom business models sell some kind of educational piece or a service, right? So just put together something so that people can understand a little bit better what it is about. So like if it's a course, just have like screenshots of the different modules and stuff like this. Then something that not a lot of people do, but what I see working very well is something like a short sales letter, right? So there's a lot of like classical sales letters. I do like a brief version where I personally address a couple of the core challenges, a couple of the main problems that people have. I establish like common ground and tell people that I have found a solution. Below the sales letter, I basically just show the different benefits of taking this offer right now. And then I tell people a little bit about how it actually works, right? You have to understand that there is different kinds of people that look for different kinds of information. This way, you basically cover all of the different objections that people have and give them many different reasons for taking your offer. Then I like to actually put the bonus in there. If you remember, we talked about this in a previous lesson. You want to have your guarantee in there and then just another call to action. This is your basic framework. Now, one piece of advice, don't really worry too much about how it looks. You want to have it look professional, yes, but it doesn't have to be a masterpiece when it comes to design. The most important thing is to actually address what people are worried about, right? So again, make sure that you communicate your offer in a way that we covered in the previous lessons. All right, next crucial page is your checkout page because you want to get paid, right? So a lot of people put their checkout directly on the sales page, and this is definitely something that you can do. The reason why I have a separate page for that is because I first let people actually put in their contact details on the sales page, then click continue and have the checkout as second step. Both works. I just really want to make sure that I capture contact information of people so I can follow up with them. So on that checkout page, there is a couple things that you want to have in place. So first of all, obviously you want to have a form that people have to fill out to pay. So this usually is provided by your checkout provider. I usually use Stripe. It's very good, works pretty much globally. I'm not a big fan of PayPal or a lot of the other ones out there. I recommend Stripe. I'm not affiliated, but I have very good experience with them. Whatever you use, they will give you a way of putting a form on your page builder, right? So that form is obviously the most important piece of your checkout page, otherwise people can't pay. But there's a couple other things that you want to put there. First of all, testimonials, right? Because if people have come that far, they are interested in your offer. But what happens many times is that this is the first time people understand the price point of it, and well, they need a little bit more assurance before they grab their credit card. So put a couple of testimonials there. If you don't have any, just ask a couple of friends, ask people who have worked with you before. The testimonials don't necessarily have to be about that product that you're offering. They do have to be about your company, about your person, and it would be good if they're real. Let's put it this way. The other thing that you want to have there is your guarantee. Again, you probably have it on the sales page already. Put it there again, just make sure people understand that there is really no risk if they work with you. And that's about it. Keep it super simple. One piece of advice, and this is specifically important for the checkout page, but also all other pages, make sure that you actually design for mobile, right? So depending on what kind of traffic you work with, oftentimes 70, 80, even 90% of traffic is on mobile, meaning on your phone, right? So let's say you use Instagram traffic, then most people who actually come to your sales page will be coming from mobile, right? And that means that if your page doesn't display well on mobile, they don't really have a way of viewing it, right? And then even the best offer won't convert because people simply can't understand what you're offering. So make sure that everything is designed for mobile first, and that is especially true for your checkout page. Other than that, pretty simple and straightforward. So just do it. All right. So you should know by now that having just a tripwire offer might not cut it. It's probably not profitable. Super important to have a core offer, right? At least if you want to make money, right? So the great thing about a core offer, in addition to a tripwire, is that you can put it as an upsell. So basically, it's just an additional page in your funnel. Now, my upsell pages are very, very simple. They're very easy to do. They have one thing so that is important, and that is a sales video. Again, I'll give you a framework and the actual steps of how to put together a VSL, a video sales letter, in one of the next lessons. So this page is very simple. Typically, it's just the video and it's a call to action with a button. If you can, and that depends on the funnel builder, like the page builder software that you're using, and the country you're operating in, then use a one-click upsell. What that means is that people have already given you their payment details in the first step for the tripwire offer, right? So now for getting the second offer, what you can do with the right kind of software is you can basically just tell people if they click that offer, then automatically their offer also goes through for that upsell. And obviously that gives you a lot more conversions because people don't have to put all their information again. They just click the button and automatically they purchase the upsell as well. Just, of course, be clear that this is what's going to happen. You don't want to have conversions of people who don't actually want the second product. That will only result in people wanting their money back or being frustrated. You want to be upfront about it, and that is a great way to increase conversions if you have a one-click upsell on your second page. And that's about it. So obviously, you can line up different offers here, and if you have them, that's something that I encourage you to do. But naturally, what happens is that you will lose a big chunk of people already on your first offer. Let's say 95% you will lose on the first step, and then only 5% continue. And then out of those 5%, you will lose another big percentage if you craft your upsell very well. Maybe you have 10, 15% conversion rate if you're doing very well, but still you will lose 80, 90% of people. So it's not that important to have like 10 offers because hardly anybody will continue all the way to the last offer. But if you have more than 2 or 3, sure, build a page and have it there as well. And then after all of these different offer pages, all you need to have is a simple thank you page. Mine are like super, super simple because I don't actually want people to spend a lot of time on my thank you page. What I want them to do is check their inbox and make sure that they get my emails because this is where I continue to sell. A lot of people seem to believe that email is dead, but this couldn't be more wrong, more further from the truth. Actually, if you speak to any successful online business owners, don't be surprised if they told you that over 50% of their revenue actually comes from email. It's definitely true for me. So let me share how we do email and how I recommend you to do email as well. With email, once people have opted in and given you permission to get in touch with them, you completely control when you want to reach out. And the best part, it's basically for free. Obviously, you have to use some tools. You can't do that through Gmail or Outlook, right? You want to use an email service provider like ActiveCampaign or MailChimp or MailerLite or whatever. I'm not endorsing any of them, but you will find one that works very well for you. We do use ActiveCampaign just as reference, but most of them are pretty good and they will handle your email for you. But that's about all you need, right? Most of them have very high quotas of how many emails you can send, and you basically just pay them like a monthly fee, and you are in charge of how many emails you send. Now, this gets me to the main misconception here, because a lot of people believe that you should only email once in a while, right? I know business owners who email their audiences like once a month. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. We do things very differently. So we make sure that our benchmark for emailing our audiences is at least once per day. Sometimes we mail people 3 times, 4 times per day. So now 2 things can happen. Either people don't like it, and this is what most business owners or list owners are afraid of. People will consider this as not very valuable, maybe even a spam, right? What can they do? Well, they will unsubscribe. That's the worst thing that can happen. Now, obviously, if you send the right kind of emails, if you keep things interesting, if you have great offers, obviously most people will not unsubscribe because your emails are actually valuable, which brings us back to the very start in our first modules about being of value, right, and having a great offer. So this is the first thing that can happen, that people unsubscribe. And that's totally okay, because if people unsubscribe, they are not your best audience anyways. You want to have people on your list who are ready to hear from you and who are ready to buy. So the second thing that can happen if people don't unsubscribe is that they can actually read more of your emails if you send more. And obviously, you can also put them in front of more offers. And obviously, you can sell more. So let me make this one point very clear. There is a direct relationship between the amount of emails you send and the amount of money you make. But of course, you don't just send any emails. Actually, there is 4 types of emails that we send and that I recommend you to send as well. Again, I want to make it easy for you. So let's just call the emails A, B, C, and D, okay? A stands for action emails, B stands for bounce emails, C stands for content emails, and D stands for deadline emails. All right, so let's dive into them and how they work. So A, the action emails. This is what most business owners actually send. So whenever a client or prospect has completed an action, they get an email. So say somebody has opted into your list, you obviously want to send them an email, say, thank you for opting in. Here is your first value email, right? And then you just follow up with them, give them whatever they have opted in for. Same if somebody has purchased something, you want to send out an invoice or receipt or something like that. You also want to tell people how they can collect whatever they purchased. This is pretty straightforward. These are action emails. Typically, I not only send one of these emails, I send them twice, basically just resending the first email, just wrapping it a little bit differently, just to make sure that people actually get what they signed up for. I think this is very important because we want happy customers, right? Second one, B for bounces. I see a lot of people not doing that and I wonder why. You should definitely send bounce emails. What are those? We discussed before when we looked at the funnel that a lot of people, they sign up for something that they don't purchase. Then if they purchase something, then on the next step, they don't convert again. Well, this is your chance to reach out to these people and just send them an email. Say something like, hey, you forgot something, right? Or, hey, I see you didn't purchase that other thing. Let me give you a little discount. Or here is something super special because you got the first thing. Now here is something else. Either way, send out a few emails, not just one, and make people aware of the next offer that you have. You will see this will drive a lot of additional revenue by simply sending a couple emails. C, the third type of email, stands for content. So this is where some people get really confused. I'm not speaking about a regular newsletter. Some people think they have to come up with different kinds of stories and complex emails and keep their audiences entertained. Actually, nothing like that. If you position yourself from the get-go as somebody who can bring solutions, then you can also just send emails with these solutions out to your target audience. And obviously, those solutions are packaged as offers, meaning products that you sell. So basically what you do here is you have a drip sequence of emails going out automatically to everybody on your list, really. So why do you send out those offers? Well, there's 2 reasons, and one is very obvious. You want to sell through these emails. So basically, you send out emails and offer people to purchase something. But the real reason why you do that is because it helps you segment your list. What does that mean? So say you send out an email and you offer a dog barking solution or a fitness program or a diet or whatever it really is, right? And you have people click on that email. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you that this person most likely has a problem with exactly what you're talking about, and they're looking for a solution. So then, in your email software, you can automatically tag that person as somebody who has that problem. And so by sending out different content emails with different content, talking about different kinds of problems and solutions, you will learn a lot more about people on your list. And in the future, you can make sure that you target those specific subsegments of your list with specific offers that fit to the problems that they showed interest in or that they seem to have. Which leads us to email type number 4, which are deadline emails. So what you want to do once somebody has shown interest in a certain solution is you want to follow up with more emails, right? So you basically stop the content sequence and send more stuff about that specific offer. Somebody's interested in having a solution because they have a barking dog, you send them a lot more emails about solutions to make that dog stop barking. And that's why they're called D, like deadline. You obviously want to use scarcity and urgency and typically have a deadline. So you give them a special offer. You just tell them, see, you have interest in that offer. For the next 24 hours, I'll give you a special deal. Two more things I want to show you when it comes to email. First of all, how do I sequence these emails out? And secondly, I want to show you how we actually write emails like this. All right, so when it comes to sequence, obviously, you don't want to send out these emails by hand. So as said before, you want to have like an email service provider where you put your emails in, right? And then you tell that program when to send these emails, right? So typically somebody opts in on your page because they purchase something or they just get your lead magnet. Then they get a first email that welcomes them to the list. And then they might get the bounce email or not, but also they get a content sequence. So you see that here. They get a couple of emails. I typically send like 1 or 2 emails per day for a number of days. It doesn't really matter how many, like 3, 4, 5 days about one specific offer that I have. Now, 2 things can happen, as said before, either nothing, right? Well, they can unsubscribe. That's one thing that can happen. But then either nothing happens, they don't click, or they click and show interest. If they don't click any of those emails, that's fine. Most people will not click. And then whenever I'm ready, ideally next week, they get another series of emails automatically about a different offer that I have. Now, if somebody clicks on an email, they get the deadline sequence. So I move them out of the content sequence and send the deadline emails. This way, the likelihood of them converting is a lot higher. If they convert, fantastic. They move back to the content sequence. If they do not convert, I also move them back to the content sequence. And then they get more content emails. This way, you dramatically increase the overall conversion rates on the traffic that you originally sent to your very first page. So now you might think, oh my gosh, so many emails to write, how do we do that? Well, it's actually very simple. Most of my emails are pure text with 1 or 2 links, and they all follow the same structure. They say, hello, then they have something that makes people curious, right? A hook of sorts. And then they have a link with a call to action that they either click or they don't. The one thing that helped me draft better emails, write better emails, is to keep the goal in mind. Usually helps in life, right? Keep the goal in mind. And the goal of an email is never to sell. The goal of an email is to make people click so they get to your sales page, which is where you sell. So let's summarize. First of all, please send a lot more emails. Secondly, have 4 types of emails, right? And thirdly, keep the emails super clean and simple. Just make sure you drive people back to your offer. That's about it. No rocket science. You can do that. So in one of the last lessons, I talked about you creating a sales video. Now, I know this is a little bit intimidating if you do it the first time. So again, let's keep it simple. Nowadays, the great thing is that you can have like a fancy video production, but actually you don't need it. And for a sales video, actually you might see that something more raw converts a lot better. So when I speak about a sales video, I speak about a VSL. A video sales letter. Kind of a weird term, but let me explain why this is different to just any video that you create. The big difference is that you actually take a prospect, somebody visiting your page, through a journey. And in that journey, you want to make sure that people understand why this is important to them and why they should get it. So the most important thing here in this lesson is the structure that I will give to you in just a minute. But before we dive into that, let me give you a couple more points of information, answering questions that you might have. So first of all, a lot of people are wondering like, how long should a sales video actually be? And this is really dependent on what you're selling. So The cheaper your product, the shorter your sales video should typically be. So for a tripwire offer, something that you sell for like 10, 20, 30, 40 bucks, right? This typically works well with like a 2, 3, maximum 4-minute video. If you sell something that is a lot more expensive, that might be thousands of euros or dollars, right? You sometimes have sales videos that go on for like an hour or two. So it really depends. But the structure is the same, believe it or not. When it comes to tools, please keep it simple. I don't want you to procrastinate because you think you need something fancy like this here, right? So just start with your phone. Usually has the best camera that you just have at home, or with the webcam of your laptop. It's totally fine. The one thing that you want to make sure of is that your audio is good enough so people actually understand what you're talking about. Now, if you want, you can actually prepare a full script with every single word that you want to say and then put that into a teleprompter. Again, keep it simple. There's apps for your phone where you just upload that text and then you just put it in front of you, right? And you can actually read while you talk and your phone films you at the same time. One word of caution. Obviously, most people, when they use a teleprompter for the first time, they read and it looks very unnatural. So if you can, the one thing I recommend you to do is actually just put bullet points and speak freely. The great thing is that you can just record it and edit it later on. Not that hard to do either. If you don't want to do it yourself, just go on Upwork or Fiverr or wherever and get somebody to help you with that. It's probably just going to be a couple minutes for that video, so don't overcomplicate it. Apart from that, again, just remember you went through all of these exercises when it comes to the problems and the solutions and your offering, and this is exactly what you want to come back to now. You want to address the problems and you want to offer a solution. As long as you focus on that and being helpful, people will understand and they will be interested in hearing more and potentially working with you. Apart from that, really, just be authentic, just be you. People will understand, they will trust you more and be more likely to purchase from you. But now let's move to the actual structure. My preferred structure for VSL has 12 points. Yes, it's 12 points, but you can move through them very quickly. Part 1 is your hook. You have to start with something that grabs people's attention. My favorite way of starting that is by saying, if you want, and then you put the dream outcome right there. This makes sure that the right people understand this is for them right away. Point 2 is your big promise. So the way that I usually say that is pay close attention because you are about to discover and then you put your solutions. Point 3 is establishing a common ground. So this is where you introduce yourself very quickly and talk about you understanding their core problems. Okay? So remember, first, dream outcome. Second, solutions. Third, common problems. All right? So it all repeats from the work that we have done before. All right. So I would say, my name is Philip Schaffman, and I've been in your shoes before. And then you list the problems. Point 4 is the real reason for the problem. So where in point 3 you talked about stuff that people typically think that their problem is, point 4 dives into the real problem, like the underlying problem and something that you have understood by going through the entire exercise, right? And then point 5 is your unique solution, all right? And this obviously hints at your offering, but be sure not to actually reveal the product yet. Just tell people a little bit more about the uniqueness of the solutions that you have come up with. Keep it interesting, okay? So point 6, you finally reveal your products. You basically just tell people that you develop something very special for them. That's about it. And then for point 7, you're doing 2 things. First of all, you dive into the benefits, right? So you basically tell people how their lives will change when they use what you put into the world. And then you make them understand how it works. So these are the so-called features, right? So what they're actually getting from your product. For point 8, you are giving them the price. Because if people have watched all the video until this point, they are ready for the price, right? You want to tell them. So first you tell them just straight away what's the cost of that. And then a second part, you do what they call a price juxtaposition, right? So basically you just compare your price to other solutions out there. And obviously you want to make sure that your solution, your offer looks a lot cooler and has a lot higher perceived value than anything else out there. So after the price, you want to make sure that people understand this is really a steal. This is really a great deal. So you also mention the bonuses that you include. And then there is your guarantee. So you make sure that people also understand that there is really no risk for them. Then you use scarcity and urgency. So tell people that there's only a limited amount of spots or products available, and if they have to take action. Now, obviously, that makes people move ahead faster. The last point is just a call to action. So obviously you want to tell people to make a move now, to click the button, to give you a call, or whatever it is that you want them to do. And that's about it. As a little extra, what I recommend, what you can do is actually to repeat point number 1 and then from point 6 onwards, just in case somebody skipped to the end, and also to basically just emphasize on what you have just talked about. That's about it. Again, if you have a simple product, if this is a tripwire, try everything you can to keep this within a couple of minutes. Just keep it super brief and you're ready to go. Well, congratulations for making it to this lesson. Because if you have arrived here and you actually went through all the previous modules and lessons, it means that you basically have your business completely laid out. And if you have been doing the exercises and worked alongside me and putting things into practice, then you actually have a business. So now the main question, of course, is how do you actually get people to see your offers? Because this is what you need to do. You build the entire system, right? But now you need people to actually see what you have to offer. And this is why I want to give you 2 more modules. This first module that you're watching here right now, module 5, is all about you positioning yourself, building out your own category class, and working with organic content to make people understand what you stand for, and also so that people can start trusting you. The next module is then all about paid traffic. So you can actually control how many people see your products, how many see your offer, and can scale it and really make money. Okay, but first things first. This lesson is all about you creating your own category class and then finding a way for you to show people what you're all about and how they can benefit from what you got to offer. Okay, so first we have to understand what is a category class. So don't get this wrong. With the funnel you built and the right offer in place, usually you can just send the right traffic into that funnel and part of it will convert and you have a business. But I want to make 100% sure that this is working for you and that this is working for you in the long term and you're building up a real asset. And for that to happen, we need to make sure that people perceive you in the right way. And this is what positioning is all about. Nowadays, online, you have so many different players. There is so much competition. So you will benefit strongly from creating your own category class. So what is a category class? If you look at the market, there's a lot of product categories. Let's take one example. Let's take the category of electric cars, just as an example. And let's take 2 very, very different cars in the category of electric cars. The Toyota Prius and the Tesla Model S. So if you look at those 2 cars, they're both electric cars. They're basically in the same category. But I would assume that you perceive them very differently. So I drive a Tesla S, I would never drive a Prius. Why? Because the Prius owns the category class of the economical electric car. And it's a logical choice for people who are looking for exactly that. The Prius basically owns this class. There are a lot of other cars in this class, but the Prius rules supreme for this category class. Tesla is basically a similar car in many aspects. Why is it perceived so differently? Because the smart people at Tesla, they understood that if they position the car differently, it appeals to very different kind of people. And in this case, people who are willing to pay a lot more because they look at themselves in essence differently by purchasing and driving this kind of car. I want to do the same for you. So let's come back to your offer and think about who else is playing in that market and what kind of category you're working in. So let's take online education as an example because you're watching this course right now. And let's take online marketing or entrepreneurship education because this is what this is in. Now, you will see that there is obviously a lot of courses out there. There's gazillions of YouTube videos and whatnot. But for whatever reason, you're watching this course right now because in your perception, this course is different. And we want that for you as well. So no matter what your offer is, you want to make sure that you understand what category are you in. But then you want to, and this is the crucial point here, you want to create your own category class because it just so happens that usually the company or the person that creates a category class will be the one that is remembered for it, the one that is top of mind for that category. So in essence, look at your offer and see how it is different from other stuff that is offered. Nothing to invent here. Just go back to your solutions list, go back to your offer and see how it is different from others. And then go all in on the one or two things that differentiate you from others. Are you bigger? Are you wider? Do you have a longer beard, right? Do you, for whatever reason, teach only in your bathrobe, right? Are you faster than others? I don't know. These are weird examples, but you know how you stick out, or you should after going through that process. And this is what I want you to leverage on and go all in for your main piece of content that we're gonna define now. So here's the thing. There's a lot of ways you can get out into the market nowadays, but the cheapest and best way to really communicate what you're all about is long form content. So what I want you to do is actually take that differentiator and create long form content, ideally video content, where you go all in on that main differentiator. So with the help of that long form content, people know you for that, and you establish your own category class. Okay, so let's see. Part 1 of 2, you understand how you can stick out. Part 2, let's define the long form content that you want to create. Why long form content and why is it the best way for you to position yourself? First of all, it has a very, very low cost compared to other ways. Like back in the days, it was always very expensive to get a lot of visibility. Nowadays, it not really is, right? If you have dialed in your offer and you understand your audience and you produce long form content with video or audio or text, you will attract people and you will get the right visibility. And low cost of getting that visibility is the number one reason for you to take time for long form content. Number 2 is that long form content gives you authority like nothing else. You see a lot of short-term video and blog posts and socials, and we're gonna dive into that. But you will realize that the people that you typically look up to, the people who you typically consider as experts, they invest into long-form content. Third reason why you wanna start with long-form content is the feedback that you get. We've spent considerable amount of energy and time into understanding what your target audience actually wants to purchase from you, the solutions that you're looking into. So this is your easiest way to actually build on that. Because once you put out long form content, you will have people give you feedback about the content. They will write you about additional problems they have, right? And they will come to you for advice. This way you get feedback that you can directly use for your products and making your products and making your offers And this feedback you can use directly to further improve your offers. And the fourth reason for you to invest into long-form content is income. Because obviously, from that long-form content, you will also directly generate income. You will generate revenue because people from your long-form content will find their way into your funnel and they're also convert. Okay, so we spoke about you finding your USP, your differentiator, and building your category class around that. Now we spoke about the reasons why you actually want to build out long-form content around that to position yourself and build your brand. And now, number 3, let's just look into what kind of long-form content that could be. The most important thing for you is to figure out what kind of medium you feel comfortable with. I wish for you that you can make video work because it's just the coolest medium that gives you the most amount of options. But if you really don't feel like doing it, you can also write or you can just do audio. Don't let the choice of medium or the necessities there be an excuse for not getting started. Okay, so choose the medium that you want to use. All right. Then secondly, what you need to do is you want to plan out your content for that long form medium. And the most important thing here really is what are the different topics that you want to dive into. But that is super easy because you already have, again, your list of problems and solutions. So you already have a list of content that you can talk about. Second, the frequency. So some people are crazy, like doing stuff daily. Some people only can do once a month. If you can, I recommend that you push out long form content at least once a week. And then of course you want to think about the structure of these content pieces. So this depends very much on what medium you use, but it helps to have like a standard layout or outline of the stuff that you do. This way it's easier to create. So now the structure for each and every individual piece depends on what kind of medium you have chosen. But in general, you just benefit a lot from having like a standard layout or structure for each and every piece. This just makes production a lot faster. And also for editing, you can get help for that. Make sure that you get a little bit of help for the actual post-production or editing, because it's obviously best to work on your business and as little as possible in your business, meaning that you want to focus on the big chunks that really need you, and then you get help for all the additional work that needs to be done. But again, you can hire online for the help that you need here. So the biggest decision for you to make now is what is the actual long form that you want to produce. As you already know, my favorite is video. So do something like a weekly podcast or like a weekly video, something like this. Because from video, you can produce the biggest amount of other material that you can use, and I'll show you how in the next steps. So I totally recommend that you use video, but of course, video gives you still a lot of options. So you could just talk with a camera like this and offer educational content. You can also do a podcast. I started my podcast recently, and it's a great way of producing content frequently if you just invite the right kind of guests. Super interesting conversations. Quite easy to produce valuable content. You can do vlogs, you could do product reviews. There's a lot of different options for video, and you can just choose one that fits with you. If you really don't want to do video, then use text. Obviously, blogging is a big thing. If you can write long articles, might be with the help of ChatGPT or whatever AI is out there, that's another option. And thirdly, of course, there is audio. If you want to move into podcasting on Spotify or something like this, that's another option you can use as well. Whatever option you choose, the most important thing is that you choose one and go all in, because obviously there's a lot of details that you will master over time naturally because you focus on something. Say you do YouTube and you do like a weekly video on YouTube, for example, like an interview podcast kind of format, you will figure out very quickly that what matters on YouTube is not just the length and how you present it, but thumbnails are very important. Just a little pictures that you put that people see before they click on a video. You can use hashtags, you can use different titles, and all of this depends on kind of like the format that you choose and the platform you work on. But you don't have to worry about this, because if you focus on one of these things over time, you will naturally figure out what works for you, and it becomes kind of easy. All right, this is it. Long form content. Please focus a couple hours a week on your long form content. It will help you understand your market better, sharpen your skills, and really get better at your topic, and then also enable you to do all the things that we're gonna cover next. I'll see you in the next lesson. In the last lesson, we covered why it is so important to create long-form content, and you will see exactly why that is in this lesson. So no matter if you have decided on doing like a video podcast, or you do live streams, which is a very easy way to create long-form content, or whatever you choose, you will end up with like one piece of content that you have online, but that you can then also reuse. So in this very lesson, we're gonna talk about omnipresence online. It's a super, super cool concept. So what I want you to realize is that with one longer form piece of content, if you split it up, you can create dozens of short form contents from it. This could be memes, this could be quotes, this could be text posts, this could be clips from the cut out from the longer form content. You could create emails from those. You could do polls about those topics. There's so many different things that you can do from one piece of content. And I want to show you how easy it is and actually walk you through something that I did a little while back, where I recorded myself, and I think it was like 1.5 minutes, right? So it wasn't even a really long form content. Works a lot better if you have more content. But in this case, it was a brief video that I did. Look at what we did here. First, you create long-form content. Secondly, you choose the different platforms where you want to repost parts of that long-form content. And then you just select the different kinds of posts that you want to do there. So let me give you an example of a video that I did, and you will realize that's not even a very long-form content. This is like 1 minute and 34 seconds. But even then, it works. Let me tell you, it works better if you have more content, obviously, right? So what you do is, first, you just shoot your long form content. So if you have video, you cut up the content of that video into different pieces that are just a couple seconds long, maybe 10, 20 seconds, clips that are easy to digest. And these become separate posts that you can use. Obviously, you want to make sure that there is like a valuable information in there, but it's maybe just one value point, one golden nugget, as they say. That's it. So this is for video. Let's move to text, right? So very easy nowadays to get a full transcript of your video. There's a lot of platforms where you can do that automatically. Then when you have the transcript, you can ask ChatGPT or an AI tool of your choice to create a summary of this or to elaborate on the core points that you have been mentioning. And this way, you can come up with a lot of text posts. In this case, I was referring to a little concept that I came up with, and I had different text pieces drafted for that. So another way of using that video piece is looking into using that content and putting it into some kind of model, right? Or putting it into a graphic. So an easy way of doing this is just going to Canva or any other of like template kind of resources online and put it there. So you see an easy example here. We call this the growth trifecta. Basically just 3 things that I believe are important for the topic that I'm talking about. So a triangle shape just makes a lot of sense. You put the different bullets there, and that's about it. So you have long form video, you have short form video, you have different text posts, and you have graphics. That's already a lot of posts based on just that one video that you did. So even for like a 1 minute and 34 second video, we came up with a lot of different posts, because also you can use these posts in different formats across the different platforms. I'm showing you this because you can do the same thing and will likely see very similar results. This is not like a high-flying case study of a mega influencer or something where we spend $1 million to push something. This is just me posting on my socials without like a massive following. And what you see here is that on some of these individual posts, like over 200 people engaged. Obviously, they fall within my target audience. Would they be likely to purchase something from me later on? Yeah, there's a good chance they will. What I find even more fascinating is that people found these posts months after and wrote me direct messages about the post and that they found it valuable. Now, obviously, that's a very strong indicator for somebody being interested. And then some of the posts received thousands and thousands of views. That's less of an engagement, that's less involvement, but also that's free visibility and directly helps me positioning myself about my offering with the right kind of people. And all comes back to one piece of video content. So now imagine you do this every week. You produce one piece of long-form content a week. From that long-form piece of content, you create 5 pieces of short-form content. And you distribute those through, let's say, 4 different platforms. That's 20 pieces of content that you can push out across your socials every single week. And if you have the right process in place, it probably only takes you a couple of minutes, especially if you use AI or have some help. So I know plenty of people who only do this and generate enough traffic to fuel their funnels and live pretty well. But I personally think it's only the start. Seriously, you can probably do this within like an hour, let's say 2 hours a week, once you have the process in place. So in the next lesson, I want to show you on top of that to get even more traction with organic. So in the last lesson, I've taught you how you can really produce a lot of content for your socials each and every week without a lot of time invest. Now, I want to give you a little bit more of what you can do here. And I want to tap into something that has become a big thing over the last 2-3 years, maybe, specifically since TikTok has really changed the game for short-term video. So what I want to do here is a rather quick lesson on how you can leverage short video for yourself. Because if you do it right, it's actually very easy and it's a lot of fun and it gives you a lot of the benefits that we talked about in the previous lessons. All right, so let's dive right into it. I've tried a lot of different approaches how to make that work. And I know a lot of you guys who are hustling and you just don't have the time to be a content creator still would like to leverage on the benefits of short video. So I wanna give you my very simple process of how to make that work. You ready? All right, let's do it. Step 1, ChatGPT. Who doesn't love it, right? Use ChatGPT, use any other AI content tool. What you wanna do is you wanna use it to generate questions that you can answer. Just let me frame that. We talked about you being top of mind for your category class. You obviously know your niche, you know your offer. So you know your audience, you know the problems that people have. So now you can just turn to ChatGPT and ask it for questions that your target audience typically has. And you can be very specific what directions those questions should take. But of course, you just want to base them on all the problem solutions, the dream outcome of people. So ChatGPT will come up with a list of questions and you can ask it for like 100 questions. Typically, what's good is you focus on different areas and then you have it come up with like 10 questions, 20 questions about that area, 10, 20 questions about that area. And this way you can come up with like a massive list of things that your target audience wants to know about. Next, you grab your phone. I assume you don't have like a Nokia 3310 or whatever it was back in the 90s. So as long as you have a kind of modern phone, that's all you need. So basically you just grab your phone, you point it at yourself,
You don't even have to see yourself. You can use like the back camera if you want to. It's usually better quality, of course. And then what you do is you just answer that question. Obviously, you don't want to ramble on forever. Try to keep it below 30 seconds, typically, right? That makes sure that you focus right on the most important points, and that's it. So you just grab the first question, right? Just look at the question, look at your phone, answer. Next question, answer. If it makes you feel better, you don't even have to look into the freaking phone. There's a lot of very successful videos where people actually look to the side. I know, it looks weird, but it works very well on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook Reels, on YouTube Shorts, whatever channel you want to focus on. Okay? So this also means that if you need to, you could actually have ChatGPT spit out talking points to answer that question too. All right? So the only thing you got to do is actually say it. That's it. All right? So then you have the raw footage, right? And again, we're not speaking about high production quality. We're talking about like TikTok style, the real kind of thing. So you have that raw footage. So how do you get from that raw footage to something that you can actually post? There's basically two steps. The first is the more critical one. You have to curate the content. The way you do that is actually very easy because you have done it in such a structured format, right? You basically look at what you answered. So you actually want to mark the stuff that you want to keep and cut out the rest. Ideally, what you can also do is you take the part of your answer that works best as a hook. So the stuff that is like the thumb stopper, something that sticks out, maybe something provocative, right? Or a question that you're asking, something like that. And you put that piece at the very beginning of your video. The rest of the video, I wouldn't necessarily edit a lot. Obviously, you want to make sure that it flows nicely, but that's about it. Okay, so now the next step is critical. There's two ways of how to move from that still kind of raw edit to something that you can post. There's two ways. The better way that gives you better quality is actually to have an editor, use a software to make that into something that is ready to publish. So they can use free software like CapCut, they can use Veed, they can use any of the other modern editing tools that have a lot of AI integrated. So once you did some basic edits, and you can even do those on your phone actually, right? You do need to have an extra step before that stuff is good enough to be published. And there is two ways of doing that. One, and I actually recommend that, is to get some help for that. You can get a VA, you can get a company to help you with that, but you want somebody who understands how to use an editing tool, right? To remove the silences. Actually, a lot of that can be done with AI right now, but still to make some jump cuts, right? And just to have it look nice, including making captions that are appealing to people, maybe include some GIFs or something like that. This is if you can afford and want to invest into somebody to help you with that. The other way you can do that is to leverage on the new AI tools that come out. There is one, I'm not affiliated with it. I've used it quite a lot. It's called Opus.pro, or Opus Clip is actually the name. Check it out, but also look what is around, because these tools change actually by the week. There's a lot of stuff coming out. And some of these tools, what they allow you to do is actually just upload that very raw edit of yours, and they create a nice short video based on that is ready to publish. Isn't that amazing? So there's no more excuses for you. Again, as of now, as of the time of recording this, having it manually edited still gives you a lot better quality, but I think the AI tools are catching up. So there's really no excuse anymore. Even if you can only like do the ChatGPT thing and speak with your phone and then upload that recording to an AI tool, that's so much better than doing nothing at all. It will give you so much visibility. It will help you so much sticking out and getting conversations started. The only thing left for you to do once you've done that is taking those clips and uploading them. We use a tool called Metricool. There is a gazillion other ones. Just use some tool that works for you and lets you schedule the different posts across the different socials. This way you can produce stuff in bulk and then just upload it and do your other stuff. I sometimes forget about this for weeks. Still, things get published, things happen, and people reach out because they see me online and want to do stuff together. So no more excuses. This was a very hands-on process for you that you can use today as long as you have a phone. So let's get to it. In the last module, we talked about how to get traffic organically. It was actually a lot about more because it was about how you own your category class, right? And build your tribe with long form content, and then based on that long form content, distribute also a lot of short form content. So people really get to trust you and know you for what you stand for. I can't emphasize how important nowadays it is to build your brand and work on your positioning so you actually stand out. So now the thing is, if you're anything like me, you don't want to depend on organic traffic. You want to be in control and also be able to scale your business at will. So how do you do that? Typically by paying for traffic. So let me explain the different sources of paid traffic that you can use so you can then decide which one is right for you at the stage you're at right now. Let's look at traffic in general. So obviously traffic just means people coming to you. So there's different ways of how to generate that traffic. In general, you could divide it into organic and paid, and organic we already covered. Just to make that clear, in theory, you can also invest into search engine optimization or different other ways of how to attract that traffic. But if you did what we covered in the last module, you're safe on that side. If you look at paid traffic, there's a lot of things that you can do. I basically think in three categories. One is paid social traffic. So this is all the different social platforms you have online that also offer ads, which is basically almost any of those. So this includes your meta platforms, so Facebook and Instagram, it's TikTok obviously nowadays, it's LinkedIn, it's Snapchat, it's whatever you have out there, right? Most of these offer pretty decent ways of running ads. Then you have other online platforms where you can display your ads. And the biggest ones that I've used in the past are Google, including YouTube, of course. You have native platforms, and then you also have other ones, but we're not gonna dive into those. And the third category are different kinds of collaborations, partnerships, JVs, and these can be very interesting for you if you're just starting out. Okay, so let's dive into the three sources of traffic that are probably the best choice for you at the stage you're in. So two of these sources of traffic fall within the partnership area, and one is a form of paid ads. But let's take it step by step. So if you're just starting out, one of the things that you want to do is obviously limit your risk. And most likely, you also don't have gazillions of euros to spend on traffic. So how can paid traffic then actually work for you? Well, the way to go forward here is joint ventures, collaborations that you set up. And there are two kinds of collaborations that I want to draw your attention to. The first one is one that I don't see a lot of people talk about, but it has served me very well. So consider this like an insider secret or hack. I think it will serve you very well. So what you do is you find companies who are already servicing the kind of clients that you want to have as customers. So let me give you an example. I'm starting a new service right now where my clients are the same as those serviced by a tool where I know the founder. We're friends, right? So we figured out that by me servicing his clients, by me offering my service to his clients, it's not just good for me because it means business for me, but it's also great for his clients because it's a great offer. And it's also great for him because his service, the stuff that he offers, becomes more valuable by me providing a service as well. So it's a win-win-win situation for everyone. And this is exactly what you can look for as well. So you understand your offering. You understand your target audience. So why don't you just go out there and look at different other service providers, at tools, at whatever companies are out there who are servicing the same clientele. And then you look for something that is beneficial to that company as well, something that you can offer that company. And you have a good chance of that company actually being interested in partnering up with you. Especially, of course, if you share part of your revenue. And this is why I call it a paid source of traffic. Because if you are ready to share 10, 20, 30, maybe even 50% of your revenue, not necessarily required, right? But if you offer part of your revenue with that company, so if you can tap into another company's existing client base in a way that it makes sense for them, makes sense for a client, and makes sense for you, you have found yourself a very, very good way of paying for highly qualified, and this is critical here, highly qualified traffic only if you actually sell, because this naturally has to be part of the deal. Especially when you're starting out, you don't want to pay for just clicks or anything like that. You want to pay your traffic source, that other company in that case, if one of their clients converts. The second way how you can use partnerships is actually working with content creators and influencers. And this is not a secret. This is pretty obviously one of the biggest opportunities that there are. So how you're going to do that is you find content creators, you find influencers who are interested in pushing out your products, your services, interested in promoting those, and you set up a deal with them. Working with if they want to be paid flat or if they do a rev share. Obviously for you, the lower risk deal is the rev share. So try to find people who you can start with on those deal terms. So now how to find content creators has become a lot easier. There is the usual way of going through influencer platforms, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to go like through the different platforms and see if you find somebody who fits and then agree to standard terms and so forth. Maybe a good way to get started. I prefer another way of doing it. What I do is I actually just spend time on the platform. So let's say I wanna use Instagram, right? So I have my niche, I follow a few people. So what I do is I look for mid-sized influencers or content creators. I'm usually not interested in like the big ones because of two reasons. First of all, they're pretty expensive. Secondly, they are not necessarily the ones who drive me the qualified traffic that I want. If I work with content creators that are very small, have a very small following, it's probably not worth it. Medium is good. What does medium mean? Was like a mid-sized influencer, typically be somebody with 100K following or more, maybe up to like 500,000, something in that range. If you look into TikTok, following is a bit bigger, but definitely below 1 million typically. So these are the kinds of influencers I typically look for. And then of course, that person has to focus on the same kind of product category, on the same kind of problems that I'm focusing on. Then it's a good fit. So either you find these directly, or another hack of finding these people is you actually follow some of the big shot influencers. So in the entrepreneurship space, I don't know, that might be a Gary Vaynerchuk or people like these. So then I look into who is actually commenting on these bigger influencers' posts. And then I see who gets a lot of engagement on their comments. More often than not, those people who get a lot of comments are influencers or more popular content creators themselves. So this is a way to find gems that I wasn't aware of before. Then you basically just reach out to them. You just write them a direct message or have an assistant or a team member reach out to these kind of creators. And more often than not, they are interested in pushing stuff that fits with their audience because they want to make money as well. All right, so this is how you find your content creators, and then you just make sure that they understand what you want them to do, like where you want them to push your traffic, and then you let them do their job. They understand their audience. They know what content works, so just let them do their thing. All right, so that's another low-risk way of partnering. And there is no shortage, typically, of content creators you can work with, depending on your niche. If you look at like business and entrepreneurship or health or wellness or anything like this, there's gazillions of people you can work with. So this can be the only strategy that you work with if this is something you want to focus on. All right, so here you got it. These are the two best ways I've figured out how you get started with paid traffic without any risk really, by collaborating with the right kind of partners. So let's move to the third thing that I promised you, and these are paid ads. And now I know what you might be thinking, paid ads, I don't have the money and so forth. Well, let me make a case for paid ads and one platform specifically, and then you can reevaluate. Maybe it is the best way for you to attract traffic. It certainly is for me. So the one platform that I recommend for you to run on is actually Meta. So it's Facebook and Instagram. So I know TikTok is hot. Traffic might be cheaper on other platforms, or you might think other platforms are cooler, or Facebook is old school, or whatever. I don't care. The thing is that Meta has pretty much everybody you're looking for. They have the biggest audiences, they have very, very good tools, and it's quite easy to get started. So although you might like the company or not, and you might be frustrated with whatever they're doing, if you want to run ads, definitely look into Meta. And here are my top reasons why you should use Meta, or if you really don't like them, at least another source of paid traffic, of running ads. So number one reason for me is actually control. So in contrast to any other traffic source that you use, specifically organic, you are actually in control when you run ads. So some things might go off, or you might feel you don't have control, but in essence, you can really choose where you run your ads, to whom you run your ads, how much of your ads you're running, where you're directing your traffic. You can even say like at what times, and a lot more. So if you run ads, by paying for that traffic, you are in charge. And I think this is the most critical thing. It also fits very well with reason number two, which is the speed of learning. So if you run any form of traffic, it is extremely important that you understand very fast what is working and what is not, right? So testing is super, super crucial. And you typically test a lot of different aspects. But one thing that you definitely want to test is what kind of messages you send out to the world, right? So with ads, that's just very easy. You just put up different ads, right? You put some budget on that and you see very quickly what is working and what is not. And what you learn on your ads, you can then also use for your entire funnel and all of your outside communications. And you can literally find out very crucial information about what works and what doesn't within a day or two. The third really good thing about running ads is that if you do a couple things right, you can put it on auto mode. So basically, you can have your ads running. They deliver traffic and feed people into your conversion machine, and you make sales. And let me tell you, one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life, and yes, my wife knows about that, was when I first woke up in the morning many, many years ago. And while I was asleep, I made money. Let me tell you, this is the most fucking awesome feeling ever. So please, use a form of traffic that allows you to do that. Use a form of traffic that you can control, that you can grow with, and that actually works even when you sleep. All right. Fourth biggest benefit of running ads is scalability. So once you have figured out how to make money while you sleep, I know that sounds very stereotypical and guru-esque shitty, right? But it can actually happen. It can actually happen very fast. And if that happens to you, and I know it will, then what you want is scale that and produce more of that. And ads is probably the easiest way for you to make that happen. All right, that was my pep talk for ads. So no matter if you go the partnership route or if you find a way to pay for ads, make sure that you use paid traffic, because this is how you can put your business to the next level.
I think it was Einstein who once said, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. And I think this applies very well to how you should run Meta ads. So I see two kind of categories of people who invest into Facebook and Instagram ads. The first category, and I don't think you belong to that category, but these are people who actually have absolutely no fucking clue and just wash money down the toilet. They put up like one ad in one campaign. They don't have their messaging right, and usually nothing really comes from that, and they wonder why it doesn't work. There's a second category, and these are people, well, a lot of entrepreneurs are like this. A lot of marketing guys are like this. They want to understand like every little strategy and make it perfect and actually overcomplicate things. So what I want to offer you here is like a middle ground, right? It gives you the essentials, the stuff that you have to understand, but it keeps things simple, which I believe is crucial. So you, first of all, actually make it happen. And then secondly, make sure that you collect enough data to improve, right? And really benefit from that. All right. So the way we're going to do this is with the help of a little model that I came up with, and I just called it the Meta Ads Pyramid. So this is how it looks like. It has 4 stages. At the very basis of that pyramid, you find 2 principles that are actually quite basic, but really fundamental. We're going to dive into those first. Then on top of those principles, you find 3 pieces that are just super crucial to have set up in the right way. Then building on top of this, we're going to dive into campaign structure. So that's just pretty cool to know because first of all, you want to understand how you actually define the different campaigns in your ads account. And then also you want to know how much you actually spend on the different campaigns and what kind of creatives you use there. And creatives is actually the top of the pyramid, probably the only thing that really matters, but you want to build it on top of the rest of the structure. All right, so let's dive into it. If you look at principles of advertising on the Meta platform, there is one principle that, well, actually applies to anything that you do online, but it's extremely crucial when it comes to running ads also on a Meta platform, no matter if that's Facebook or Instagram, basically the same for most of what we're going to talk about here. So what is ABT? It's short for always be testing. And we covered a little bit of that in previous lessons, but it's super, super critical when it comes to ads. So let me just point one thing out. You never, ever create one ad and put it online, okay? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Because you always want to have something that you test against. Otherwise, how would you know what is better and what is working less? Don't let me get back to that dating example and split testing and, well, let's not go there. But what I am telling you is that you always want to have more than one ad so you actually know which one behaves better. Once you have found a winner there, you pause the loser, you keep the winner, you add more ads, see if the new ads beat the new benchmark, and so forth. Of course, we can go into a lot more detail here. You want to do that for the creatives, for the copy, for the advertising objectives. But quite frankly, that's all for later, and it's not that critical. As long as you look into your ads account and just figure out what of the different things that you're running works better than other stuff, you know which direction you have to move. And that brings us to the second principle, which says data-driven, right? This is so important. I see a lot of people who advertise online or engage in different activities really in their life and their business, and I don't understand the way that they judge what is working and what is not. The only thing that matters is looking at your unit economics, right? Looking at your KPIs. So that is the cost of a conversion. That is the revenue you made. That might be the cost of a click or whatever you decide on being critical alongside your funnel. You define a couple of the KPIs along that, and you optimize everything to improve those KPIs. That means data-driven. So don't let yourself go nuts. Just have a couple ones that you continuously optimize for, and all the decisions in your company, at least when it comes to the funnel and the marketing piece, are a lot easier. All right, a couple things about the setup. And let me just get this straight. There is gazillions of tutorials online on YouTube and wherever if you have details, questions. That's not the problem. The problem is that some people just don't understand what is actually necessary. So let me make sure that you cover on the most important pieces. That's what I want to deliver to you here. So when it comes to setup, there's 3 things that you just want to get right from the get-go. The first thing is the pixel. What is the Facebook, or now called Meta pixel. It's basically just a piece of code that you can copy from within your ads account and you paste it on the page where a conversion happens. What does that do? So first of all, it actually helps you track your conversions and all of the important metrics within Facebook. Does an okay job doing that. It's not perfect, but it gives you an advantage having the data in there, of course. Secondly, and this is even more important, you help Facebook understand what kind of people convert, what kind of people Facebook needs to send so your business is working. And obviously, this is super, super important. So just make sure the Facebook pixel is integrated and fires whenever a conversion happens. Firing just means that it sends back information. That's it. Sorry for the lingo here. Okay, so another piece about the setup is that you want to make sure that you actually have a payment source integrated. The reason why I have this mentioned here at all, because I think it's kind of obvious, is that if you do not pay your bills, Facebook might have one other reason to ban your account. Nothing will work. Also, your ads will stop, which is bad for the learnings and what the algorithm can actually take from the data that it should process. So just make sure you have your credit card or whatever hooked up to your account. Third part when it comes to setup is the audiences. So back in the days when, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, on Facebook, it was super crucial and everybody thought it was super cool, actually, that you could be very specific about your audiences and you can target different interests and work a lot with lookalikes and so forth. I'm not saying this is not a good way of doing Facebook ads anymore. It can definitely work in your favor, but it has become less important. What you do want to understand is how to use the audience feature and have a couple audiences ready that you can use for retargeting. What does that mean? That means that everybody who has engaged with your content before, be it ads or be it all the organic stuff that you have posted because you have been doing what we talked about in the last lessons, right? You can have Facebook understand who was actually engaging with your content, and you can basically just tell Facebook or Meta nowadays, make this an audience and put my ad in front of these people who have already engaged with my stuff. Of course, people who have already engaged with my stuff are more likely to convert. This is why it can be very beneficial for you to set up a few audiences of people who have previously been in touch with your content. All right, so when you have that in place, it's time to actually create your campaigns. You ready? Okay, well, so there's 3 types of campaigns that you want to have. And it's really only these 3 types, okay? Again, let's keep it as simple as possible. So the first one is all about prospecting. So prospecting means that you get yourself in front of new people who have not heard about you. About 20% of your budget and probably your energy should go into that. The second category is conversions. Conversions is where you make sales, right? And the third is retargeting, which is also where you want to make sales, but you are targeting people who have already been in touch with you previously. All right, we're going to dive a little bit more into campaign structure and how to build that in a minute. But why do you do all of that? Because at the top of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid is your creatives. And this is what you want to let shine and what we're going to dive into in our next lesson. Before that, let me show you a graphic of how this campaign structure will then look. When you look at the structure, you will see there's 3 different levels. The first one is the level of the campaign. The second one is all about the ad set. And then you have ads within those ad sets. Let's go through that one by one. So if you look at the campaign, this is where you really choose your objective. So we already said the first one is about prospecting, then you have one for conversion, and then you have one for retargeting. And this is how you also choose the objectives, right? So for the first one, for prospecting, you make sure that you use an objective that goes in line with that. That could be engagement or video views, most typically for my campaigns. Then for conversions, very clear, it's a sales objective, and for retargeting as well. When you then move on ad set level, so that's the level basically within the campaign, there's basically 2 things that you want to make sure that you select correctly here. And a lot of the stuff you don't really need in there. The first one is that you want to select the right kind of audience. So typically for the prospecting and the conversion, these are cold audiences. And then for the retargeting, you use the different audiences that you have already been in touch with. And then on the third level, this is where you put your creatives. So in general, within each campaign, you can have different ad sets. I try to limit the number of ad sets within my prospecting campaign to like 1 or 2, sometimes 3. That's about it. Again, I'm lazy. I want to keep it simple. It just works. Then within the conversion campaigns, you typically do have a couple of ad sets because you're targeting different audiences. You're split testing a little bit here. And the same for the retargeting. Then on the ad level, you typically only want to put like 3 or 4 ads within an ad set. If you put more ads within an ad set, then typically Facebook just doesn't spend very well on all of them. It prioritizes just 1 or 2, and then you don't really know which ads are working better in the first place. All right, that's it for the Facebook pyramid and a pretty simple way of running meta ads. If you're seeing this for the first time, maybe it's a little bit complex or appears a little bit complex, but let's move to the next lesson. I'll show you how to work with creatives. And then the only way to make this work for you is really to dive into the ads manager, right? Just create a Facebook ads account, hook up your credit card and play with it. If you only spend $5 or $10, that's fine too. Just make sure you understand the game, you set everything up and get started. I promise you it's worth it.
So let's move to my favorite part, and that is creatives. So obviously, there could be an entire course about how to do creatives for advertising and specifically Facebook and Instagram. We don't want to do that here because what I want you to get is the fastest and simplest way to making this work. So I'm going to break it down to something that will only take a few minutes and should get you going today if you wish to do that. All right, so there's one prerequisite that you have to have in place to make the simplified approach to ads work, and that is to have that irresistible offer and to have that conversion machine in place, okay? If you have that, it just makes advertising so much easier. All right, so what I want to give to you in this last lesson here is basically 2 things. First of all, I want to give you my favorite and best working ads for each of the 3 different steps that we have in advertising: the prospecting, the conversion campaigns, and the retargeting. And then I just want to point you into a couple of directions where you can find inspiration for even more ads once you're ready to experiment. All right, let's get started. So for prospecting, keep in mind what's the goal. The goal really is to get in front of new audiences, new people, and building your brand with those new audiences, right? So that's the core objective here. And then secondly, of course, you want to use prospecting to build audiences, right? To segment these called audiences into people who are interested and those who are not. So that's the goal. Let's not forget about that. So looking at that goal, what could be like a good creative to use here? So it's everything that we talked about in previous lessons when we spoke about organic content, right? So again, make it easy on yourself and use the best stuff that you have. So first step is go to your Instagram, go to your Facebook, or even other channels and see what kind of organic content got the most traction. So look at the engagement rates, look at how many people commented, look like the feedback that you got on different pieces. The stuff that sticks out there is your best start for using as prospecting ads as well. Again, you want to get in front of new audiences and you want to use the best organic content for that. So first step, identify the organic stuff that worked best for you. Step 2, use those as ads. So there's 2 ways that you can go forward with that are very simple to do. Step 1 is the quickest. When it comes to the Meta platform, you can usually boost, right? Boost or promote a certain creative by just pressing a button. So as an example, take a reel. So let's say you posted a reel on Instagram that did 2 times better than something else, had like double the visibility, had more engagement, and so forth. You take that, you find there's like 3 little dots on the right bottom, I believe. You click on that and then you find a button that says something like boost reel, right? That's what you click and it actually gets you to a mask where you can run this as an ad. You just put a little bit of budget behind that. You can start with a couple dollars That's all it takes to get started here. You make sure that you target the right audience. In this case, for prospecting, cold audience, just broad. That's about it. And you run it as an ad. Super easy peasy, and you will immediately see the uptake when it comes to performance and the different KPI metrics. The second way to do that is you actually go inside the Meta Ads Manager. You start a prospecting campaign, and then when it comes to actually choosing a creative, you just open the asset library, you find your creative there, and you select it. That's pretty much it. There's also another way where you can basically take the post ID, no matter how you use it. Just make sure you find the creative, follow the basic setup rules, choose your broad audience again, put a budget, make sure the Facebook pixel is active, usually has like a green light, and you hit publish. That's about it. These are typically your best creatives, and you already have them in place, so use them. It's definitely what I do day in and out. So next campaign we're gonna look into is retargeting. We're gonna talk about conversions afterwards. That's the most fun. So first, let's do the retargeting. So for retargeting, it's typically quite small budget, right? So you don't need a lot of creatives. The kind of creatives that I do like to use here are testimonials and special offers. So testimonials, you probably have seen them around quite a bit. So what I recommend here is just call up a couple of your previous purchases, right? Just ask them for a little Zoom call for feedback and just ask them about your product and the experience that they had. And then either you ask them for permission to cut that Zoom call recording into something you can use for an ad, or you actually just ask them for a testimonial. If they liked what you offered, they're probably more than happy to give you some positive feedback that you're allowed to use as well. Easy. Special offers are another great creative that you can use. Don't forget, those people in your retargeting audiences are people who already know you. So why not give them something special? Something that they are ready to just grab, something that they want to buy straight away. Okay, so that could be for like special occasions, that could be a discount, something like that. And just frame it as something that only goes out to your tribe, to your following, and people are very, very likely to actually follow up on that and purchase from you. So that's it for retargeting, keeping it very simple. Important thing here is absolutely go for a conversion objective here. You only want to have this ad going out to people who are ready to purchase something online from you. So let's move to the mighty conversion campaigns. What kind of ads do you actually run to make sales online? So there's two very simple, easy to do ads that I want you to start with, or if you are already running Facebook ads, please test those as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat your more sophisticated creatives that you have come up with. Okay, number one is an image ad. Number two is a simple video ad. First, the image ad. So what worked best for me over the last years, and it keeps beating other things, is a private photo of myself. So with private, I don't mean like naked or anything like that, just like a private setup. So what I mean is just you being at home, maybe if you want to show them with your family. That's one of my best creatives actually. You can also try yourself like on a stage or in like a semi-formal setup, but actually this tends to work less, probably because it has been overused by a lot of people in the online space. So just you, a face shot, you with your family, something like this. Yes, of course, if it somehow sticks out because it looks weird or it has different colors, that might help people, stopping people when they scroll through the feed, but it's not necessarily what we need for a conversion ad. And it's very easy because again, we're coming back to the offer, we're coming back to the problems and the solutions that we have been working on. So you just say something like, if you want, and you remember, that's also part of the VSL script, right? If you want dream outcome without, and then you state the problem. So this is one sentence, this is maybe two sentences, and that's about it. Why is that powerful? Because it attracts the right kind of people. It attracts people who are looking to find a solution to get to their dream outcome. Does this get you the cheapest clicks? No, it does not. Does it get you higher conversion rate on your offer? Yes, it does. And of course, you can pay more on a click if that person converts better on your landing page. What a lot of people looking at is getting cheap clicks, getting high CTRs on their ads, and then that traffic is shit and it just doesn't convert, right? So I'm not saying don't work on your ads, don't make sure you pay less for a click. What I am saying is that if you put the dream outcome, the problem and the solution right in front of people, then this attracts the right kind of people. So this should be your very first image ad. And more often than not, this will beat anything else that you test. And then the video ad. Well, actually, if you have gone through the lessons, you might already have your video ad. Why is that? Because it's very much what you did for your VSL as well. You just take part of that, right? Maybe you can just clip it out of that VSL video. And if you haven't done a sales video, then now is the time for you to do that. Again, just grab your phone, make sure you have decent audio, decent lighting, but that's about it. Actually, super raw and real converts nowadays, especially on the ads side of things, right? So just speak into your phone and use the script that we covered for the VSL. So you start with if you want, or try a different approach. Most, and then you just talk about the audience. So let's say entrepreneurs, right? Let's just say, how weird, we're talking about a course about freedom entrepreneurship, right? You could say something like, if you want money, time, freedom, and happiness. So this is your hook, right? Or you could start with something like, most entrepreneurs just want to have more money, more time, and more happiness. All right, so this is your hook. This is how you start. Then you refer to the common pain because this is what lets you connect with your audience. And then you just give them a call to action. And the call to action is just click if you want to learn more. That's about it. You don't need to sell in the ad. The only thing that you want to do is have people click. So that's about it. You got an image ad that will work better for you than most other things that you can try. And you have a video ad that lets you shine and gives you a lot of visibility, being super nice to people and just offering them a solution. This is really the stuff that I recommend for you to run, no matter if you're just starting out or if you already have experience with ads. So now, as a last part, let me help you get some more inspiration to build on top of the success that you will likely see with those ads. So I hope you get to work now. I know that it will literally take you a couple minutes to come up with the image ad that I have just described. And I know that today you can also get that video ad done. So there's nothing holding you back. Get to work and I'll see you for a last lesson. So let's move to my favorite part, and that is creatives. So obviously, there could be an entire course about how to do creatives for advertising and specifically Facebook and Instagram. We don't want to do that here because what I want you to get is the fastest and simplest way to making this work. So I'm gonna break it down to something that will only take a few minutes and should get you going today if you wish to do that. All right, so there's one prerequisite that you have to have in place to make the simplified approach to ads work, and that is to have that irresistible offer and to have that conversion machine in place, okay? If you have that, it just makes advertising so much easier. All right, so what I wanna give to you in this last lesson here is basically two things. First of all, I wanna give you my favorite and best working ads for each of the 3 different steps that we have in advertising: the prospecting, the conversion campaigns, and the retargeting. And then I just want to point you into a couple of directions where you can find inspiration for even more ads once you're ready to experiment. All right, let's get started. So for prospecting, keep in mind what's the goal. The goal really is to get in front of new audiences, new people, and building your brand with those new audiences, right? So that's the core objective here. And then secondly, of course, you want to use prospecting to build audiences, right? To segment these called audiences into people who are interested and those who are not. So that's the goal. Let's not forget about that. So looking at that goal, what could be like a good creative to use here? So it's everything that we talked about in previous lessons when we spoke about organic content, right? So again, Make it easy on yourself and use the best stuff that you have. So first step is go to your Instagram, go to your Facebook, or even other channels and see what kind of organic content got the most traction. So look at the engagement rates, look at how many people commented, look like the feedback that you got on different pieces. The stuff that sticks out there is your best start for using ads, prospecting ads as well. Again, you want to get in front of new audiences and you want to use the best organic content for that. So first step, identify the organic stuff that works best for you. Step 2, use those as ads. So there's 2 ways that you can go forward with that are very simple to do. Step 1 is the quickest. When it comes to the Meta platform, you can usually boost or promote a certain creative by just pressing a button. So as an example, take a reel. So let's say you posted a reel on Instagram that did 2 times better than something else, had like double the visibility, had more engagement, so forth. You take that, you find there's like 3 little dots on the right bottom, I believe. You click on that and then you find a button that says something like boost reel, right? That's what you click and it actually gets you to a mask where you can run this as an ad. You just put a little bit of budget behind that. You can start with a couple dollars. That's all it takes to get started here. You make sure that you target the right audience. In this case, for prospecting, cold audience, just broad. That's about it. And you run it as an ad. Super easy peasy, and you will immediately see the uptake when it comes to performance and the different KPI metrics. The second way to do that is you actually go inside the Meta Ads Manager. You start a prospecting campaign, and then when it comes to actually choosing a creative, you just open the asset library, you find your creative there, and you select it. That's pretty much it. There's also another way where you can basically take the post ID, no matter how you use it. Just make sure you find the creative, follow the basic setup rules, choose your broad audience again, put a budget, make sure the Facebook pixel is active, usually has like a green light, and you hit publish. That's about it. These are typically your best creatives and you already have them in place, so use them. It's definitely what I do day in and out. So next campaign we're gonna look into is retargeting. We're gonna talk about conversions afterwards. That's the most fun. So first, let's do the retargeting. So for retargeting, it's typically quite small budget, right? So you don't need a lot of creatives. The kind of creatives that I do like to use here are testimonials and special offers. So testimonials, you probably have seen them around quite a bit. So what I recommend here is just call up a couple of your previous purchases, right? Just ask them for a little Zoom call for feedback and just ask them about your product and the experience that they had. And then either you ask them for permission to cut that Zoom call recording into something you can use for an ad, or you actually just ask them for a testimonial. If they liked what you offered, they're probably more than happy to give you some positive feedback that you're allowed to use as well. Easy. Special offers are another great creative that you can use. Don't forget, those people in your retargeting audiences are people who already know you. So why not give them something special? Something that they are ready to just grab, something that they want to buy straight away. Okay, so that could be for like special occasions, that could be a discount, something like that. And just frame it as something that only goes out to your tribe, to your following, and people are very, very likely to actually follow up on that and purchase from you. So that's it for retargeting, keeping it very simple. Important thing here is absolutely go for a conversion objective here. You only want to have this ad going out to people who are ready to purchase something online from you. So let's move to the mighty conversion campaigns. What kind of ads do you actually run to make sales online? So there's 2 very simple, easy to do ads that I want you to start with, or if you are already running Facebook ads, please test those as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat your more sophisticated creatives that you have come up with. Okay, number 1 is an image ad. Number 2 is a simple video ad. First, the image ad. So what worked best for me over the last years, and it keeps beating other things, is a private photo of myself. So with private, I don't mean like naked or anything like that, just like a private setup. So what I mean is just you being at home. Maybe if you want to show them with your family, that's one of my best creatives actually. You can also try yourself like on a stage or in like a semi-formal setup, but actually this tends to work less, probably because it has been overused by a lot of people in the online space. So just you, a face shot, you with your family, something like this. Yes, of course, if it somehow sticks out because it looks weird or it has different colors, that might help people, stopping people when they scroll through the feed, but it's not necessarily what we need for a conversion ad. And it's very easy because again, we're coming back to the offer, we're coming back to the problems and the solutions that we have been working on. So you just say something like, if you want, and you remember, that's also part of the VSL script, right? If you want dream outcome without, and then you state the problem. So this is one sentence, this is maybe two sentences, and that's about it. Why is that powerful? Because it attracts the right kind of people. It attracts people who are looking to find a solution to get to their dream outcome. Does this get you the cheapest clicks? No, it does not. Does it get you higher conversion rate on your offer? Yes, it does. And of course, you can pay more on a click if that person converts better on your landing page. What a lot of people looking at is getting cheap clicks, getting high CTRs on their ads, and then that traffic is shit and it just doesn't convert, right? So I'm not saying don't work on your ads, don't make sure you pay less for a click. What I am saying is that if you put the dream outcome, the problem and the solution right in front of people, then this attracts the right kind of people. So this should be your very first image ad. And more often than not, this will beat anything else that you test. And then the video ad. Well, actually, if you have gone through the lessons, you might already have your video ad. Why is that? Because it's very much what you did for your VSL as well. You just take part of that, right? Maybe you can just clip it out of that VSL video. And if you haven't done a sales video, then now is the time for you to do that. Again, just grab your phone, make sure you have decent audio, decent lighting, but that's about it. Actually, super raw and real converts nowadays, especially on the ads side of things, right? So just speak into your phone and use the script that we covered for the VSL. So you start with if you want, or try a different approach. Most, and then you just talk about the audience. So let's say entrepreneurs, right? Let's just say how weird. We're talking about a course about freedom entrepreneurship, right? You could say something like, if you want money, time, freedom, and happiness. So this is your hook, right? Or you could start with something like, most entrepreneurs just want to have more money, more time, and more happiness. All right, so this is your hook. This is how you start. Then you refer to the common pain because this is what lets you connect with your audience. And then you just give them a call to action. And the call to action is just click if you want to learn more. That's about it. You don't need to sell in the ad. The only thing that you want to do is have people click. So that's about it. You got an image ad that will work better for you than most other things that you can try. And you have a video ad that lets you shine and gives you a lot of visibility, being super nice to people and just offering them a solution. This is really the stuff that I recommend for you to run, no matter if you're just starting out or if you already have experience with ads. So now, as a last part, let me help you get some more inspiration to build on top of the success that you will likely see with those ads. So I hope you get to work now. I know that it will literally take you a couple of minutes to come up with the image ad that I have just described. And I know that today you can also get that video ad done. So there's nothing holding you back. Get to work, and I'll see you for a last lesson. This is it. I believe, and my belief is based on 20 years of doing this shit. I believe that you have everything you need to get your freedom business started, rolling, working, and making money with it. Now, the important thing, of course, is putting things into practice. So if you have not done all the work that was laid out for you in this course, let me tell you, this may be the most beneficial thing that you have ever done to yourself. Again, this is based on 20 years of building businesses, seeing a lot of failures, a lot of successes. And if I had somebody to teach me exactly that 20 years ago, I would probably have saved myself 15 years of trouble. So I hope this serves you well. I love you for going through this course, and I truly wish that this will give you the levels of freedom and happiness that you are longing for. If you need anything, always feel free to reach out to me. I hope to see you in the calls that we're gonna have here within Capital Club. If you need me, I'll be here for you. So now focus on what matters, get the work done, and enjoy what you can build here. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Peace out.